The Orc warboss died with a grin on his face, even as my power fist crushed his skull into paste. That's when I knew, really knew, that we're fighting enemies who don't fear death the way we do. My name is Brother-Captain Castor Valen, Ultramarine's third company, and I've seen things that would shatter a normal human's sanity. 17 different XENOS species, 73 worlds, 147 campaigns. You're sitting there thinking aliens are just monsters from propaganda vids, distant threats the Imperium handles while you live your comfortable life. You think I hate them because I'm supposed to, because some ancient text told me to. But here's the truth nobody wants to hear. I understand them. Every single species. Their hopes, their fears, their reasons for fighting. I know what drives them, what terrifies them, what makes them believe they deserve this galaxy, and I kill them anyway. Chapter 1. The first lesson. My indoctrination as a neophyte of the Ultramarines began in the chapter's fortress monastery on Macraga, in the shadowed halls where 10,000 years of XENOS specimens are preserved in stasis fields. Brother Chaplain Orton led our cohort of 12 aspirants through what we called the Gallery of Abominations. I was 16, Terran standard years old, my body already transformed by the first stages of gene seed implantation, my mind sharp with the memory retention blessings of the catalepsian node. This, Orton intoned, his skull-faced helmet gleaming in the specimen field's blue light, is the beginning of wisdom. The creature suspended before us defied my understanding of biology, roughly humanoid in shape. It possessed 4 arms ending in razor-sharp claws, a carapace of chitinous plates that shifted colors even in death, and a head dominated by compound eyes that seemed to track our movement despite obvious lifelessness. A brass plaque identified it as a Kroot warrior, retrieved from the Damocles Gulf Crusade 80 years prior. "What do you see, aspirant Castor?" Orton asked me specifically. I studied the specimen with the analytical focus drilled into me through months of hypno-conditioning. A predator, Brother Chaplain. The jaw structure suggests carnivorous adaptation. The multiple limbs provide combat versatility. The eyes indicate enhanced sensory perception, likely across multiple visual spectra. "Adequate observation," Orton replied, a hint of approval in his vox-distorted voice. "Now tell me what you feel." The question confused me. Emotions were weaknesses to be mastered, distractions from tactical assessment. But I answered honestly. "Revulsion, Brother Chaplain. The form is wrong, a corruption of the human template." "Good." Orton moved to the next specimen, a creature that appeared to be composed of living metal, its body frozen mid-transformation. "Revulsion is the Emperor's gift to mankind. It protects us from the fundamental error that destroyed the ancient human federation. The belief that XENOS could be partners, allies, equals. Your gut reaction to this Necron warrior is not prejudice, aspirant. It is species-level survival instinct." Over the following weeks, our education in xenology became the foundation of our tactical training. We learned to recognize 47 distinct species by silhouette alone, to identify their weapons by sound, to predict their tactical doctrines by cultural analysis. The Codex Astartes, our holy text of warfare written by our Primarch Robute Guilliman himself, contained extensive sections on XENOS combat psychology. But doctrine alone did not forge understanding. Brother Sergeant Marius, a veteran of the Third Company with 200 years of service scarring his aged face, supplemented our formal education with practical wisdom. He gathered our neophyte squad in the training cages after evening prayers, speaking in a low voice that suggested he operated in the grey areas of acceptable instruction. "The Codex teaches you what each XENOS is," he said, pacing before us with the restless energy of a warrior denied combat. "I will teach you what each XENOS thinks it is. This difference will save your lives." He activated a hololith projector, and the image of an orc materialized above us. A massive, green-skinned brute with tusks and crude armor plating. "The greenskin. What does the Codex tell you?" We recited in unison. "Biologically engineered warrior species. Fungal spore reproduction. Gestalt psychic field enabling impossible technology. driven by genetic imperative toward warfare. Correct, Marius nodded. Now forget that clinical description. An Ork believes he was created by brutal gods for an eternal war that will never end and should never end. Combat is not survival for them. It is religion, art, love, purpose, and joy combined into one experience. They do not fear death because death in battle is their species' highest achievement. You cannot intimidate an Ork. You cannot break their morale. You can only kill them, and even then, they die satisfied. The hololith shifted to an Eldar, a slender, graceful figure in elaborate armor, wielding weapons of elegant design. The Eldar, what do they think they are? I raised my hand, and Marius nodded permission. They consider themselves the galaxy's true inheritors, I ventured. The eldest children of creation, superior to humanity in every measurable way. Close, Marius said, surprising me, but incomplete. The Eldar see themselves as survivors of an apocalypse so complete, so absolute, that it tore a hole in reality itself and birthed a chaos god specifically to torment them for eternity. They look at us, humanity in its millions of worlds, our trillions of souls, and they see their own past. Arrogant, countless, doomed. Every elder you meet is simultaneously the most arrogant being in the galaxy and the most terrified. They know what happens when a species reaches too far, and they're certain we're about to repeat their mistake. This perspective shift troubled me. The xenology texts presented aliens as simple threats to be catalogued and eliminated. Marius spoke of them as thinking beings with philosophies, histories, fears. It felt dangerous, this empathy. Brother Sergeant, I asked carefully, does understanding XENOS psychology risk sympathy? Marius's smile was cold. An excellent question, aspirant. The answer is yes, which is exactly why you must master this understanding now, while you're surrounded by battle brothers who will execute you if you fall into heresy. Better to face this temptation in a controlled environment than to discover it alone on a battlefield, negotiating with an Eldar Farseer who has had thousands of years to perfect manipulation. He deactivated the hololith. The Emperor created Space Marines to defend humanity against threats we cannot afford to misunderstand. Ignorance is not purity. Ignorance is just another way to die. That night, I lay in my cell, a austere chamber 3 meters square with a prayer alcove and combat training servitor, and contemplated what Marius had taught us. The Imperium's official doctrine was unambiguous. The alien, the heretic, the mutant, all were to be purged without mercy, without hesitation, without question. But the Codex Astartes itself contained nuanced tactical guidance that assumed knowledge of enemy motivation, culture, psychology. Perhaps, I realized, the difference between wisdom and heresy was razor thin. Perhaps being a space marine meant walking that edge with perfect balance. My combat training began 3 months later in the simulation chambers, where advanced hololith technology recreated authentic XENOS combat scenarios. My first opponent was an Ork mob, 20 greenskins charging across an urban war zone, their crude weapons blazing. I killed 17 before their numbers overwhelmed my position. The simulation ended with my death. A chainsword wound across my throat that felt entirely real thanks to neural feedback. Tactical analysis, Chaplain Orton demanded as the simulation chamber returned to its default grey state. I underestimated their pain tolerance, I admitted, my voice still shaking from the simulated death experience. I inflicted wounds that would incapacitate or kill a human enemy, but the Orks continued fighting. More than that, Ortan corrected. You underestimated what pain means to them. An Ork wounded in battle becomes more dangerous, not less. Pain proves the fight is real. Blood proves the fight is worth fighting. You gave them exactly what they wanted, a proper scrap. Next time, kill faster. The simulations continued. I fought Eldar aspect warriors whose precognitive abilities meant they dodged my shots before I pulled the trigger. I fought Tyranid organisms that adapted to my tactics in real time, forcing constant improvisation. I fought Necrons, whose living metal bodies regenerated from wounds that should have been fatal. Each defeat taught me a fundamental truth. Humanity's survival in this galaxy was not inevitable. We persisted through will, faith, and the superhuman warriors like me who stood between civilization and extinction. On the day of my final trial before becoming a full battle brother, I faced a simulation that has haunted me ever since. The scenario was simple: a human colony under attack by dark Eldar raiders. My mission was to defend the civilians long enough for evacuation. I failed. The dark Eldar, pirates, slavers, and torturers, who made an art form of suffering, were too fast, too cruel, too experienced. For every raider I killed, 3 civilians died screaming. The simulation ended with 2,000 colonists captured, destined for the nightmarish slave pits of Comora, where they would be tortured for decades before finally being allowed to die. I knelt in the simulation chamber afterward, my transhuman physiology unable to stop my hands from shaking. Chaplain Orton stood over me in silence for a long moment. Then, "Do you understand now why we hate?" "Yes, Brother Chaplain." "Do you understand why mercy is weakness?" "Yes, Brother Chaplain." "Do you understand why the only good Xenos is a dead Xenos?" I looked up at his skull-faced helmet. "I understand, Brother Chaplain, that the galaxy is more terrible than I imagined, and that Space Marines exist because someone must stand against that terror." Ortan extended his hand and pulled me to my feet. "Then you are ready to take the oath. Welcome to the Third Company, Brother Castor." 3 days later, I received my power armor in the chapter's holiest ceremony, spoke the 177 vows of service, and became a Space Marine. 20 years later, I would kill my first real Xenos on Armageddon and discover that all my training, all my doctrine, all my preparation had still left me utterly unprepared for what true alien contact means. Chapter 2. Green Tide. Armageddon burned beneath an iron sky, its atmosphere choked with the ash of 10,000 forges and the smoke of eternal war. The hive city of Hades sprawled across 140 square kilometers, a monument to humanity's industrial might and its desperate, clinging survival. I was 23 years old, though age means little when you possess the gifts of immortality and superhuman enhancement, and this was my first true deployment. The Third Company had been dispatched to reinforce the Armageddon Steel Legion against the largest Ork invasion in the system is recorded history. Warlord Gazkul Mag Uruk Thraka, the beast who had broken Armageddon twice before, had returned with a Wah, numbering in the millions. I stood in the ruins of Manufacturum District 7 Theta alongside my squad, 10 Space Marines in Ultramarines blue, our bolters loaded with mass-reactive rounds, our faith absolute. Brother Sergeant Marius, the same veteran who had taught me about Xenos psychology as a neophyte, commanded us with the calm authority of 2 centuries' experience. "Remember your doctrine," he voxed across our helmet communications. "Orks are not mindless. They are not stupid. They are simplified. They want combat. They want violence. They want war. Everything else, strategy, logistics, technology, exists only to enable more fighting. Deny them the fight they want. Control the engagement." The rumble reached us before visual contact. A bass vibration transmitted through the rockcrete beneath our ceramite boots. Then the sounds of mechanical engines pushed far beyond safe tolerances, and the war cries of thousands of green-skinned aliens who had crossed the galaxy for this moment. "Contact," Brother Leonidas reported from our forward position. Estimate 400 infantry with mechanized support, looted Lehman rust tanks, warbikers, 1 Gargant-class walker approximately 30 meters tall. 400 to 10. The odds would have been suicide for any normal military force. For Space Marines, it was Tuesday. "Tactical assessment," Marius commanded me specifically. I analyzed the approaching horde through my helmet's auto-sensors, cogitator systems processing data faster than an unenhanced human could comprehend. They're funneling through the Manufacturum approaches, limited fields of fire. We establish overlapping kill zones in the choke points. Prioritize the Gargant's leg servos to immobilize it. Let them come to us. Execute, Marius confirmed. We deployed with the practiced efficiency of 10 warriors who had trained together for years. Brothers Marcus and Demetrius established heavy bolter positions on elevated ruins with clear sightlines. Brother Leonidas and Brother Titus, our squad's most experienced melee specialists, anchored the center to absorb any breakthrough. I took position beside Marius, my role as future squad leader, requiring that I learn command decisions firsthand. The Orks appeared 3 minutes later, like a green tsunami pouring through the manufactorum's shattered gates. They were even larger than the specimens I'd studied. Some exceeded 2.5 meters in height, their bodies masses of scar tissue and crude cybernetic augmentation. Their weapons were scavenged Imperial technology rebuilt with Ork logic. Guns that should explode in the wielder's hands but somehow fired. Vehicles that should collapse under their own structural impossibility but somehow moved. First rank, fire, Marius commanded. The heavy bolters opened up with their distinctive choom-choom-choom rhythm, each round a mass-reactive shell designed to penetrate and then explode inside the target. Orks exploded in showers of green blood and crude armor fragments. 10 died, 20, 30. The rest charged faster, their battle cry shaking the air. Wah! Second rank, fire. Our squad's bolters added precision fire to the heavy weapons suppression. I acquired targets with transhuman speed, led Ork with power claw, threat priority maximum, headshot. Next target, Ork with rocket launcher, double tap center mass. Next target, Ork knob with heavy armor, sustained fire on joint articulation until armor fails. The greenskins died in droves, but they did not stop. They did not slow. They did not break. This was my first revelation about Ork psychology. They were happy. Every death, every explosion, every moment of chaotic violence was exactly what their genetic programming desired. They were not being slaughtered. They were having the time of their lives. An Ork warbike, a two-wheeled mechanical abomination, belching black smoke and mounted with twin-linked heavy weapons, crashed through our left flank's debris field at 80 kilometers per hour. Brother Demetrius's heavy bolter tracked but couldn't pivot fast enough. The bike's rider, a massive Ork with a cybernetic jaw and goggled eyes, fired his weapons wildly while screaming what I assumed was joy. I stepped into the warbike's path. My transhuman reaction time allowed me to calculate trajectory, timing, and force requirement in the microseconds before impact. I fired my bolter one-handed into the Ork rider's center mass while simultaneously bracing my ceramite armored shoulder against the bike's frame. 250 kilograms of power-armored Space Marine versus 300 kilograms of Ork and machinery moving at high speed. Physics briefly became negotiable. The warbike's front wheel collapsed on impact. Its rider was hurled forward, 3 bolter rounds detonating inside his torso cavity. The bike itself flipped, crashed, and exploded in a fireball that would have vaporized an unarmored human. I walked out of the flames without slowing. Flashy, Brother Castor, Marius observed dryly over the Vox, but effective. The Orks' initial charge broke against our position like an ocean wave against a fortress wall, furious, relentless, and ultimately futile. We killed 137 greenskins in the first 4 minutes of combat. Their bodies piled in the choke points, creating impromptu barricades that funneled subsequent attackers into even more concentrated fire zones. But the Gargant remained operational, a walking factory of destruction that shook the ground with each ponderous step. Its massive arms ended in industrial weapons, a claw the size of a Rhino transport vehicle, and a gun barrel that could have been a Baneblade tank's main cannon. The Ork mech who piloted the Gargant was visible in the machine's head section, a tiny green figure controlling tons of metal through willpower and psychic gestalt field. Castor, Marius voxed privately. See the leg joints? 40-meter sprint, melter bombs on the left knee actuator. You have 16 seconds before it acquires line of sight on our position. Acknowledged, Sergeant. I ran. Space Marine power armor does not make you slow. It makes you fast beyond human capability while rendering you nearly indestructible. I crossed 40 meters of debris-strewn manufactorum floor in 4 seconds, my ceramite boots cratering the rockcrete with each stride. Ork infantry tried to intercept me, I shot them without breaking stride, my bolter barking single shots that ended lives with casual efficiency. The Gargant's leg loomed above me like a pillar of scrap metal and impossible engineering. Up close, I could smell the thing, hot metal, leaked promethium fuel, and the distinctive fungal stench of Ork biosystems. I attached 3 melter bombs to the knee joint's thickest structural beam, set the timer for 3 seconds, and sprinted away. The melter bombs detonated with superheated fury, their thermal charges reaching temperatures that could vaporize ceramite armor. The Gargant's leg didn't explode, it simply ceased to exist below the knee, the metal flash-boiling into expanding plasma. The Gargant toppled. 30 meters of Ork war machine crashed into Manufacturum District 7 Theta like a collapsing skyscraper. The impact registered 4.7 on seismic sensors. 17 Orks were crushed beneath it. The mech pilot survived long enough to crawl out of the wreckage, his body broken and his augmetics sparking. I granted him a merciful death. A single bolt round through the skull. Gargant neutralized, I reported to Marius. Outstanding. Return to position. This is far from over. He was correct. The Ork assault continued for 7 hours and 43 minutes. We killed 426 greenskins that day, our bolter barrels glowing red-hot from sustained firing, our armor scarred by crude Ork blades and improvised explosives. Brother Titus suffered a fractured femur from a power claw strike. Brother Marcus lost 3 fingers when an Ork slugger round penetrated his gauntlet's joint seal. We did not retreat. We did not yield. We held our position until the Imperial Guard reinforcements arrived with armor support, and then we held it 3 more hours to ensure the line was secure. When the battle finally ended, I stood among the alien corpses and experienced my second revelation about XENOS. They were real, not specimens in stasis fields, not hololithic simulations. Real beings who had lived, fought, and died according to their nature. The Ork at my feet had possessed thoughts, desires, a crude culture, and a psychology alien to human understanding. I had killed him anyway, and I would kill 10,000 more without hesitation. Marius approached me as I reloaded my bolter, replacing the weapon's spent magazine with practiced efficiency. His armor bore the scars of centuries, purity seals, honor markings, and the patina of innumerable battles. "Your first XENOS kills," he said. "How do you feel?" I considered the question honestly. Satisfied, Sergeant. The Emperor's will was done. Humanity was defended. And I hesitated, then spoke the truth. They died well, according to their nature. There is a kind of honor in that, even for XENOS. Marius's expression was unreadable behind his helmet. "Hold that thought, brother. We're being redeployed in 6 hours. The 3rd company has a new mission. Eldar Corsairs raiding our supply lines 3 systems over. You'll discover that not all XENOS die with honor. Some die scheming, manipulating, convinced that their intellect makes them superior even as you split their skulls." "I will adapt, Sergeant." "You will," Marius agreed, "because that's what Space Marines do. We meet every XENOS threat on its own terms and defeat it anyway. That is our gift to humanity. Comprehensive xenocide, executed with perfect precision." He walked away, leaving me among the Ork dead. I looked down at the greenskin corpses and tried to imagine the galaxy from their perspective. Born to fight, living to fight, dying in combat with a smile. For an Ork, this battlefield was paradise. For humanity, it was just another Tuesday in our species' eternal war for survival. I said a prayer to the Emperor, not for my enemies, but for the strength to keep killing them until every last threat to mankind was eliminated. The prayer took 17 seconds. Then I returned to my squad, reloaded my weapons, and prepared for the next deployment. The Eldar awaited. Chapter 3: Paths of Deceit. The craft world Alatok hung in the void like a frozen teardrop, a wraithbone structure 300 kilometers long, home to millions of Eldar souls, ancient beyond human comprehension. Our mission was not to assault the craft world itself. Even a full chapter of Space Marines would break against such a fortress. Our mission was simpler: Destroy the Corsair fleet raiding our supply convoys, eliminate their leadership, and send a message that humanity's logistics were not fair game for XENOS piracy. I stood in the strategium of the strike cruiser Sword of Macragge, studying the tactical displays with 30 other brothers of the Third Company. Captain Ardias, a veteran of 400 years' service, his face a roadmap of scars, and his voice like grinding stone, briefed us with the clinical precision our Primarch Robout Guilliman had codified in the Codex Astartes. Eldar Corsairs are not like the greenskins you fought on Armageddon, he said, his gaze sweeping across us. Orks are predictable. Eldar are not. They will ambush when you expect assault. They will retreat when you expect resistance. They will negotiate when you expect combat. Their technology is superior to ours in almost every measurable way. Their reflexes are faster. Their weapons are more sophisticated. Their precognitive psychers can see the flow of battle before it occurs. Then how do we defeat them, Captain? A young brother asked. The same way humanity has defeated every XENOS threat that should have destroyed us, Ardias replied. We refuse to accept defeat. We absorb losses that would break any other species and continue fighting. We are crude where they are elegant, simple where they are complex, and relentless where they are refined. The Eldar are individually superior. We are collectively inevitable. The tactical display showed our objective: a raiding fleet of 7 Eldar vessels, sleek and blade-like, hiding in the asteroid field of the Coronis system. Intelligence suggested the fleet was led by Prince Etharan, a Corsair captain of significant reputation, who had eluded Imperial forces for 63 years. The engagement begins in 4 hours, Captain Ardias concluded. We will deploy via boarding torpedoes. Third Company will secure the flagship's command deck. Remember your doctrine. Eldar psychology centers on survival. Unlike Orks, who fear nothing, Eldar fear everything. They are the remnants of a fallen empire, every one of them aware that their species is doomed. This makes them desperate, cautious, and utterly ruthless when cornered. Do not expect honor. Do not expect mercy. Expect only that they will do whatever necessary to survive. I absorbed this intelligence with the same focus I'd applied to studying Ork psychology. But something troubled me, a question I was almost afraid to ask. I approached Marius privately after the briefing. Sergeant, I said, if Eldar are desperate survivors fighting for their dying species, doesn't that make them similar to us? The Imperium is besieged on all sides. Humanity is fighting for survival against impossible odds. Are we not also desperate? Marius regarded me with an expression I couldn't quite read. That question, Brother Castor, is precisely why you were selected for potential squad leadership. You see the patterns. Is it heresy to see similarities? No, Marius said carefully. It's wisdom. The difference between us and the Eldar is not our desperation. It's our response to desperation. We build. We forge unity from a million worlds. We sacrifice and endure and persist. The Eldar fractured. Some retreated into craft worlds and hid from the galaxy. Some plunged into depravity and became the Dark Eldar. Some worship a god they believe will somehow save them. They had an entire galaxy once, and they squandered it through arrogance and excess. We will not repeat their mistake. Understood, Sergeant. But Castor, Marius added. Never forget that understanding the enemy doesn't mean sympathizing with them. An Eldar who sees you as a tool to be used and discarded will speak beautiful words right up until the moment he shoots you in the back. They've had 10,000 years to perfect manipulation. You've had 23 years to learn resistance. That imbalance could kill you. 4 hours later, I locked myself into a boarding torpedo, a one-way kinetic projectile designed to penetrate a ship's hull through sheer velocity and momentum. 10 Space Marines crammed into a space barely large enough for 5 normal humans. The torpedo's machine spirit chanted litanies as its guidance systems acquired target lock on the Eldar flagship Swift Retribution. This is Brother-Captain Ardias, the Vox crackled. Emperor guide your aim. Guilliman guide your tactics. All units, launch. The boarding torpedo fired with acceleration that would have killed an unaugmented human. 12 Gs of sustained thrust that slammed me back against the restraint harness. My Susan membrane partially activated, allowing my transhuman physiology to endure forces that should have rendered me unconscious. The torpedo's exterior temperature reached 800 degrees Celsius as atmospheric friction became superheated plasma. 23 seconds of acceleration. Then impact. The torpedo's breaching charge detonated a microsecond before contact, blowing a 3-meter hole in the swift Retribution's hull. Our projectile punched through Wraithbone's superstructure, interior decks, and Eldar crew members who were too slow to evacuate the impact zone. The boarding torpedo's frontal hatch blasted open, and we deployed into a hostile environment with weapons ready. My first visual contact with living Eldar froze me for a critical half-second. They were beautiful, and I use that word with clinical precision. Their armor was flowing curves of psychoreactive material that shifted colors like oil on water. Their weapons were elegant constructs of crystal and psychic circuitry. Their faces, visible through translucent helmets, possessed a refined aesthetic that human features could never achieve. They moved with grace that made our transhuman agility look clumsy by comparison. Then they opened fire, and beauty became irrelevant. Eldar shuriken weapons, hypervelocity monomolecular discs fired in controlled bursts, shredded through our boarding torpedo's wreckage. Brother Tiberius, standing 3 meters to my left, took a burst across his gorget. The shuriken ammunition didn't penetrate his ceramite armor, it liquefied it, the monomolecular edges cutting through atomic bonds. Tiberius's throat disappeared in a spray of blood and ceramite fragments. "Defensive formation," Marius roared. "Suppressing fire, advance by thirds." We moved with rehearsed efficiency despite the chaos. Brothers Marcus and Demetrius laid down covering fire, while Leonidas, Marius, and I advanced to better positions. The Eldar fell back with tactical precision, their movements coordinated by Vox communications we couldn't intercept, and possibly precognitive guidance from their farseers. I killed my first Eldar 17 seconds into the engagement, a Guardian soldier who emerged from cover to fire his shuriken catapult. My bolter barked once, the mass-reactive round catching him center mass. Unlike the Ork, who would have roared and tried to kill me even while dying, the Eldar simply collapsed, his expression behind his helmet one of surprise that he had miscalculated the timing. "Keep moving," Marius commanded. "They're trying to funnel us into a kill zone. Breach the bulkhead. We need to reach the command deck before they scuttle the ship." We fought through the swift Retribution's elegant corridors, each chamber a work of art that we desecrated with bolter fire and Eldar blood. The Corsairs defended with tactics that were simultaneously brilliant and frustrating. They would ambush, inflict casualties, and retreat before we could close to melee range. They used the ship's geometry against us, forcing us into choke points where their superior range and accuracy provided overwhelming advantage. Brother Demetrius died in one such ambush, a trio of Eldar rangers with long rifles firing from a concealed position. His helmet was pierced by a needle-thin projectile that penetrated the eye lens and destroyed his brain. He was dead before his body hit the deck. I felt rage then, not the mindless fury of the Orks, but cold, calculated hatred. These XENOS were good at killing. They had perfected the art over millennia. Every tactic, every ambush, every weapon was optimized for lethal efficiency, and they were still losing. Because for every space marine they killed, we killed 10 Eldar. Because we didn't need elegance, we just needed to keep advancing, keep firing, keep existing as an unstoppable momentum. The Eldar could win every tactical engagement and still lose the strategic war. We breached the command deck after 47 minutes of ship-to-ship combat. The final barrier was a Wraithbone door reinforced with psychic wards that resisted our breaching charges. Brother Leonidas solved the problem with characteristic directness. He fired his melter gun at point-blank range, superheating the door until the Wraithbone simply vaporized. The command deck beyond was not what I expected. Where an Imperial ship's bridge would be cramped, utilitarian, and packed with crew stations, the Eldar command deck was an open space dominated by hololith displays showing the battle in real time. A central dais held Prince Atharan himself, a tall Eldar in ornate armor, his helmet decorated with blade-like crests, dual power swords sheathed at his sides. He stood alone. "Monkey," he said, his voice filtering through his helmet's vox system with only the slightest accent coloring perfect high Gothic. "You have damaged my ship, killed my crew, pursued us across 3 systems. I am impressed by your persistence, if not your intelligence." Marius raised his bolter. "Surrender your fleet. Face imperial justice." Atharan laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Justice? You murder my people for the crime of survival. You wage xenocide across the galaxy and call it righteousness. You are children playing with weapons you don't understand, led by a corpse god who can't even protect his own species from itself." "Heresy," Marius stated flatly. "Last chance. Surrender." "I will offer you something better," Atharan said, and his hands moved to his sword hilts with inhuman speed. A lesson in humility. He drew both power swords and attacked. I had trained against every combat scenario the chapter's simulation chambers could produce. I had fought orc knobs in close quarters. I had battled Tyranid organisms designed specifically for melee combat. I had dueled against veteran space marines in the practice cages. None of it had prepared me for fighting an Eldar warrior who had been perfecting swordplay for 3 centuries. Atharan moved like liquid lightning, his blades creating a whirlwind of lethal geometry that should have been physically impossible. He struck at Marius first, 17 sword strikes in 3 seconds, each blow targeting armor joints, helmet seals, and weak points with surgical precision. Marius parried with his chainsword, the weapon's teeth screaming as they met Eldar power field technology. I fired my bolter in controlled bursts, trying to support Marius without hitting him in the crossfire. Atharan dodged, not with precognitive foresight, but with pure physical reflex that allowed him to track the bolter rounds' trajectories and move fractionally faster than their flight path. Brother Leonidas charged from the flank with his thunder hammer raised. Atharan spun, used one power sword to deflect the hammer's descending blow, and drove his second sword through Leonidas's gorget with perfect precision. The blade pierced Leonidas's primary heart. Then Marius's chainsword caught Atharan's left arm at the elbow, the adamantine teeth chewing through Eldar armor and alien flesh. Atharan screamed, the first genuine emotion I'd heard from him, and staggered backward. I closed the distance and fired my bolter at point-blank range, emptying my entire magazine into Atharan's torso. The Eldar prince collapsed, his elegant armor shattered, his blood pooling on the command deck's pristine floor. He looked up at me with eyes that were too large, too ancient, too knowing. "Your Imperium is dying," he whispered. "We both know it. The only question is whether you'll take the galaxy down with you." "We endure," I replied, standing over him. "That is what humanity does." "No," Atharan said, his voice fading. "You survive. There is a difference. We lived, Monkey. We had an empire of such beauty that your primitive language lacks words to describe it. We achieved perfection in art, science, philosophy, and we fell. You will fall too, not because you are weak, but because you are strong enough to think yourselves invincible." He died with his eyes open, still staring at me with something that might have been pity. Marius knelt beside Brother Leonidas, whose secondary heart had taken over life support functions. "He'll survive," Marius confirmed. "The apothecarian can repair the damage." He turned to me. "Your kill, Brother Castor. Well executed." But I felt no satisfaction. The Eldar prince's words echoed in my mind with disturbing resonance. I looked around the command deck, at its elegance, its sophistication, its evidence of a culture that had achieved heights humanity could barely imagine, and we had come here to destroy it all. "Sergeant," I asked carefully, "was he right about the Imperium dying?" Marius was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of 2 centuries hard-won wisdom. "Every empire dies eventually, Castor. The Eldars died in a single catastrophic moment of excess. Ours dies slowly, gradually, losing ground every year to XENOS, heretics, and chaos. But here's what that arrogant bastard didn't understand. We know we're dying. We've known for 10,000 years, and we keep fighting anyway. That's the difference between the Eldar and humanity. They achieved perfection and couldn't maintain it. We never achieved perfection at all. We just refused to quit. We secured the swift retribution 40 minutes later. The remaining Eldar corsairs scattered or surrendered. Prince Etharin's fleet was destroyed. His decades-long raiding campaign ended. The Imperium's supply lines were secure. By any tactical measure, it was a complete victory. So why did I feel like I'd lost something? I reported to the apothecarian after the battle to have my armor's minor damage repaired. While the chapter serfs worked on my ceramite plating, I accessed the ship's xenology archives and researched the Eldar's history, their ancient empire, the fall that had birthed the chaos god Slaanesh, their current fragmented existence. They had been glorious once. They had been gods of their own galaxy, unchallenged and supreme. And in a single moment of cultural decadence, they had destroyed themselves so completely that 10,000 years later, they still hadn't recovered. I thought about the Imperium, our million worlds, our countless trillions of human souls, our desperate faith in an emperor who couldn't even speak to his subjects anymore. We weren't so different from the Eldar in their final days. We were powerful, entrenched, convinced of our own righteousness. Were we heading toward our own fall? Brother Chaplain Orton found me in the archives 3 hours later. He stood in the doorway, his skull-faced helmet removed to reveal a weathered face lined with scars and devotion. "Troubled thoughts, Brother Castor?" he asked. "The Eldar Prince said our Imperium is dying," I admitted. I find myself unable to dismiss his words as mere XENOS propaganda. "Good," Ortan said, surprising me. "Never dismiss enemy intelligence just because you don't like the source. Yes, the Imperium is dying. It has been dying for 10 millennia. Every world lost to XENOS invasion. Every system consumed by Tyranid hive fleets. Every rebellion that turns planet against planet. These are symptoms of an empire in decline. Do you know why we still fight? Because the Emperor commands it? No," Ortan corrected gently. "We fight because every day the Imperium survives is another day of human lives lived, human children born, human dreams dreamed. We don't fight for an eternal empire. We fight for one more day, then another, then another. The Eldar fought to maintain their perfection and lost everything. We fight to maintain existence itself, and somehow, against all probability, we persist." He placed a heavy hand on my shoulder. "The Eldar Prince was half right, Brother Castor. We are dying. But death is not defeat. Surrender is defeat. Despair is defeat. As long as one Space Marine stands between humanity and extinction, we haven't lost. Remember that in the battles to come. You'll need it." That night, I knelt in my cell and prayed to the Emperor. Not the rote prayers of litany, but honest words from an uncertain heart. I prayed for the strength to keep fighting when victory seemed impossible. I prayed for wisdom to know the difference between necessary cruelty and pointless brutality. I prayed for the clarity to serve humanity without becoming the very monsters we fought against. The Emperor, as always, did not answer, but the silence felt like acknowledgement rather than absence. 3 months later, I would face the Tau and learn that not all XENOS were ancient empires in decline. Some were young, optimistic, and genuinely believed they could save the galaxy through unity and cooperation. That idealism would prove more dangerous than any weapon, but that lesson awaited in the future. For now, I was just a young space marine learning that the galaxy was more complex than doctrine suggested, and that sometimes the most dangerous enemy was the one who might be partially right. Chapter 4. Greater Good, Lesser Truth. The world of Daleth Prime represented everything the Tau Empire believed it could be, a monument to their philosophy of the greater good, where multiple species lived in apparent harmony under Tau guidance. The city sprawled across the planet's temperate zone like a planned utopia. Sleek towers of bonded ceramic and advanced materials, integrated transport systems, and public spaces designed for maximum efficiency and minimal conflict. From orbit, it looked like humanity's own golden age, writ small, clean, organized, peaceful. I hated it on sight. The third company had deployed to Dalith Prime in response to increasingly disturbing intelligence reports. 17 Imperial worlds in the Damocles Gulf had petitioned to join the Tau Empire. Not conquered, petitioned. Human governors, tired of the Imperium's grinding demands for tithes and troops, tired of watching their populations suffer under bureaucratic inefficiency and religious zealotry, had looked at their Tau neighbors and decided the greater good offered a better future than the God Emperor. This was heresy of the highest order, not the heresy of chaos corruption or XENOS collaboration through force, something far more insidious, the heresy of choice. Our mission was threefold: eliminate the Tau diplomatic corps coordinating the defections, extract or terminate the human governors who had turned traitor, and send an unmistakable message that abandoning the Imperium carried fatal consequences. Captain Ardius briefed us in the strike cruiser's strategium, his scarred face grave. The Tau are not like the Orks or Eldar you've fought. They are young. Their civilization is barely 6,000 years old, children by galactic standards. They possess technology that rivals or exceeds ours in some areas. Their plasma weaponry is more efficient. Their battlesuits provide their infantry with firepower equivalent to our dreadnoughts. Their drone warfare and AI integration would be considered tech heresy of the highest order if humanity employed similar systems. He paused, letting that sink in. But their greatest weapon isn't technology, it's ideology. The Tau genuinely believe in the greater good, a philosophy that all sentient species can cooperate for mutual benefit. They offer human worlds infrastructure, technology, reduced taxation, and representation in their empire. They are, by every measure, more humane rulers than the Imperium. Then why do we fight them? A young brother asked. Because humanity's survival is not negotiable, Ardius replied, his voice hard as adamantium. The Tau's greater good is predicated on Tau leadership, Tau culture, Tau philosophy. They offer humanity the choice between subservience dressed as partnership or extinction dressed as unfortunate necessity. They are colonizers who have perfected the art of making subjugation look like liberation. Make no mistake, brothers. The Tau are existential threats not because they want to destroy humanity, but because they want to save us, on their terms, under their guidance, and billions of humans are foolish enough to believe them. The mission parameters were clear. Surgical strike on Dalith Prime's diplomatic quarter, maximum casualties to Tau leadership, withdrawal before their military forces could mount organized response. Simple in concept, viciously difficult in execution. We deployed via drop pods, one-man coffins of ceramite and prayer that plummeted through Dalith Prime's atmosphere at terminal velocity. My pod's machine spirit chanted litanies as gravitational forces pushed 7 Gs against my transhuman frame. The pod's external sensors showed Tau anti-aircraft batteries tracking our descent, railgun rounds reaching up like fingers of light to swat us from the sky. Brother Justinian's pod was hit at 4,000 meters altitude. The railgun's hypersonic projectile punched clean through the pod's armor, through Justinian's torso, and out the opposite side. His pod tumbled out of control and crashed into the outskirts of the city. A crater and a corpse. A space marine's death without glory or witness. My pod struck the plaza outside the diplomatic quarter at 190 meters per second. The impact cratered the elegant stonework, shattered sculptures, and sent Tau civilians scattering in terror. The pod's frontal hatch blew off with explosive bolts, and I emerged into an alien world. Tau civilians surrounded me, blue-skinned beings with no visible nose, small physiques averaging 1.5 meters tall, wearing practical clothing that marked them as workers, administrators, artists. They stared at me with large eyes that showed more curiosity than fear. One of them, a young female by the subtle markers of Tau biology, approached with hands raised in what I assumed was a peaceful gesture. "We mean no harm," she said in passable Gothic. Please, there is no need for violence. We can discuss. I shot her. The bolt round took her in the chest, detonating inside her body cavity with the distinctive crack boom of mass-reactive ammunition. She exploded in a shower of blue blood and tissue fragments. The civilians around her screamed and ran, finally understanding what a Space Marine represented. Death, pure and simple. "Third Company, form up!" Captain Ardius commanded over the Vox. "Assault pattern Delta 7. Warlord protocols authorized. No prisoners, no mercy." We advanced through Dalith Prime's diplomatic quarter like a tide of blue ceramite and bolter fire. Tau Firecast warriors, their military arm, responded with admirable speed, their battlesuits deploying from hidden barracks with their plasma weapons already charging. These were not the elegant warriors of the Eldar or the brutal monsters of the Orks. These were professional soldiers employing combined arms doctrine that would not be out of place in the Codex Astartes itself. A Tau Crisis battlesuit team, 3 soldiers in advanced powered armor mounting plasma rifles and missile pods, ambushed our right flank from elevated positions. Their tactical doctrine was sound: establish superior firing position, engage at maximum range, maintain mobility advantage. Their plasma weapons fired in controlled bursts, each shot a sun-hot projectile that could melt through ceramite armor with sustained fire. Brother Sergeant Marius took a plasma hit to his left pauldron, the superheated matter boring through the blessed ceramite and scorching the flesh beneath. He didn't slow, didn't acknowledge the wound. He just adjusted his aim and fired his heavy bolter in long sustained bursts that forced the crisis suits to maintain evasive maneuvers instead of accurate fire. "Castor," he voxed. "Flank left, take the missile suit. Marcus, suppress the center. On my mark." We moved with practiced coordination. I broke from the main assault line, using the diplomatic quarters architecture for cover as I closed distance. The Tau doctrine was to engage at range where their superior firepower provided overwhelming advantage. Space Marine doctrine was to close to melee range, where our transhuman strength turned us into unstoppable killing machines. The Tau pilot operating the missile-equipped crisis suit saw me coming and adjusted his position, his battlesuit's jump jets firing in controlled bursts. Missiles streaked toward me, 8 warheads tracking via advanced guidance systems. I couldn't dodge them all, so I didn't try. I shot 3 missiles out of the air with precise bolter fire, my transhuman reflexes allowing impossible accuracy. 2 more missiles I simply endured, their explosions washing over my armor in flame and shrapnel that would have vaporized an unarmored human. The remaining 3 missiles went wide, their guidance systems confused by the explosions surrounding me. Then I was inside the crisis suit's minimum engagement range. I grabbed the battlesuit's leg with both hands and pulled. 300 kilograms of advanced Tau technology met 250 kilograms of genetically engineered superhuman wearing powered armor. The crisis suit toppled. Its pilot tried to compensate with his jump jets, but I'd already damaged the gyroscopic stabilizers. The suit crashed onto its back like a turtle, its weapons firing wildly as the pilot panicked. I straddled the suit's torso section and fired my bolter into the cockpit at point-blank range. 7 rounds. The first 4 penetrated the battlesuit's lighter cockpit armor. The final 3 entered the pilot's body. The Tau died without speaking, his large eyes showing only surprise. "Missile suit down," I reported to Marius. "Confirmed. Advance to objective. We're running out of time." The diplomatic quarter's central structure was a tower of crystalline material and elegant design. Everything the Imperium's brutal architecture was not. We breached the main entrance with melter bombs that turned the sophisticated security doors into expanding plasma. Inside, the tower's aesthetic was almost painful. Every surface designed for beauty and function simultaneously. Lighting optimized for multiple species' visual spectra. Air systems calibrated for diverse respiratory requirements. The Tau had built a utopia. We came to burn it down. We found the diplomatic core on the tower's 15th floor. 37 individuals representing the Tau's water caste, the administrative and diplomatic arm of their empire. They were flanked by human collaborators, governors and administrators from imperial worlds who had chosen the greater good over the god emperor. Ethereal Aunel-Tau Wraither stood at the chamber's center, one of the Tau's revered leader caste, his presence marked by the ornate robes and the subtle pheromone control that made other Tau instinctively defer to his authority. He faced us without visible fear, his aged features calm. "I am Ethereal Aunel-Tau Wraither," he said in flawless High Gothic. "I speak for the greater good. We need not be enemies, warriors of humanity. There is a place for your Imperium in the Tau Empire." "Heresy," Captain Ardius interrupted. "All of you stand condemned for the crime of abandoning humanity's manifest destiny. Your sentence is death." "Wait!" One of the human governors, a woman in her 50s wearing expensive robes that marked her as nobility, stepped forward. "Please, you must understand. The Imperium is broken. I've watched my people starve while the Administratum demanded increased tithes. I've sent my world's children to die in wars they didn't understand, for an emperor who doesn't even know their names. The Tau offer something better." I shot her before she could finish. The bolt round caught her in the face, ending her heretical words and her life simultaneously. Her body collapsed in a spray of blood and bone fragments. The other human collaborators screamed. "By the order of the Holy Inquisition and the authority of the Adeptus Astartes," Captain Ardius declared, "you are all found guilty of treason against the Imperium of Man. May the Emperor have mercy on your souls, for we will not." What followed was not a battle. It was an execution. We killed 37 Tau diplomats and 16 human traitors in 17 seconds. Our bolters barked with methodical precision, each shot ending a life that had chosen unity over purity, cooperation over faith, and survival over honor. The diplomatic chamber became an abattoir, its elegant floors slick with XENOS and human blood intermingled. Ethereal Aunel-Tau Wraither died last. Captain Ardius granted him that much, the courtesy of witnessing his vision fail before experiencing oblivion. The Ethereal knelt among the corpses of his people and his allies, his aged face showing genuine sorrow. "You murder hope," he said softly. "You kill the only path toward a galaxy where war isn't inevitable, where species don't exterminate each other for the crime of being different. The greater good could save humanity from itself." "Humanity doesn't need saving," Ardius replied. "Especially not from XENOS, who presume to know what's best for us." He executed the Ethereal with a single bolter round to the skull. We withdrew from Dalith Prime 7 minutes later, our mission accomplished, our armor stained with the blood of idealists and traitors. Tau military forces pursued but couldn't match our extraction speed. We left behind 112 Tau casualties, 16 human traitor corpses, and a message written in blood. The Imperium does not surrender its own. On the return journey to the Sword of Macragge, I found myself in the Apothecarian, having my armor's damage assessed. Brother Apothecary Kalen worked in silence, his servo arms making minute adjustments to my ceramite plating, while scanning for injuries beneath. "You're troubled, Brother Castor," he observed. "I can read it in your vital signs." "The human governor," I said slowly. "Before I killed her, she was making an argument about the Imperium's failures, about the Tau offering something better. And she wasn't wrong. Not entirely. The Imperium is brutal, inefficient, cruel. We do send billions to die in pointless wars. We do let populations starve while the Administratum argues over shipping manifests. The Tau's greater good, by contrast, seems almost reasonable." Kalen's augmetic eye focused on me with uncomfortable intensity. "Do you believe the Tau offer a better future for humanity?" "No," I said immediately, "but I can understand why some humans might think so. That woman I killed, she thought she was saving her people. Does that make her a traitor or a desperate leader making an impossible choice?" "Both," Kalen replied. "That's the tragedy of this galaxy, Brother Castor. Almost everyone believes they're doing the right thing. The Orks think eternal war is paradise. The Eldar think their survival justifies any cruelty. The Tau think their greater good will save us all. The heretics think chaos offers freedom. They're all wrong, but they don't know they're wrong. They believe just as we believe in the Emperor's vision for humanity. He finished his work on my armor and stepped back. The difference is this: we're willing to die for our belief. Are they? That question haunted me through the following months as the Third Company continued its crusade against XENOS threats. Because the answer, I had learned, was yes. The Tau were willing to die for the greater good. The Eldar were willing to die to preserve their dying race. Even the Orks died gladly in pursuit of their brutal paradise. Every species in the galaxy thought they were right. Every species thought their cause was just. Every species believed they deserved to survive and thrive. The galaxy wasn't big enough for everyone to be right, so we killed each other, again and again, in a war that had no end and no victor, only survivors who claimed they'd won. I wondered if the Emperor looked down from his golden throne and wept at what his galaxy had become, or if he'd always known it would end this way. We fought through the swift retribution's elegant corridors, each chamber a work of art that we desecrated with bolt of fire, patrol of the Ultima Segmentum's eastern fringe. The Corsairs defended with tactics that were simultaneously brilliant and frustrating. Hive fleet they would ambush, inflict casualties, and retreat before we could close to population 9 million. Immediate evacuation geometry against request emergency forcing us into choke points. The message ended superior range and accuracy provided overwhelming advantage. 6 days. Brother Demetrius died in one such ambush. By the time we translated a trio of Eldar into Harvest 7 long rifles, I knew we were too late to save anyone. The planet hung in the void like a dying needle-thin projectile. Its once green continents now covered in a purple-grey organic matter that spread across the surface his body hit the deck. Even from orbit, the magnitude of the disaster was mindless fury of the Tyranids, but an extragalactic swarm of bioengineered predators. These XENOS were good at killing. Purpose was consumption. They had perfected the art. Had descended on Harvest 7. Every tactic, locust, every ambush, Captain Ardius, every weapon the Third Company optimized for lethal efficiency. I'd never heard in his voice. And they were still losing. What awaits us on Harvest 7 is not war as we know it. We killed Tyranids 10 Eldar for territory because we didn't need elegance. We just needed to keep advancing, only keep firing. They are hunger-given form as an unstoppable weaponized, and they will not stop could win every living thing on that planet has been absorbed into strategic war. We breached the command letting the horror 47 minutes of ship-to-ship rescue. Harvest 7's 9 million souls was already dead or digested. Reinforced our mission is denial that resisted our breaching the planet's infrastructure. Brother Leonidas solved the problem with characteristic the biomass unusable. He fired his ensure the hive point-blank range from this world. Superheating the door. We fight until the wraithbones to make victory so costly that the hive beyond was not what I expected. I had studied Tyranid biology in the chapter's Xenology archives. Utilitarian. I had reviewed combat footage from previous Imperial engagements. Eldar command. I had analyzed the tactical doctrine the Codex Astartes recommended for showing the Tyranid war in real time. None of it prepared me for the reality of facing the great Tharan himself. We made planetfall Thunderhawk in ornate armor, descending through an atmosphere with blade-like crests, even through my power sword filtration at his side. Spores and digestive enzymes and alien pheromones that made my enhanced biology filtering through his helmet's. The primary landing zone was supposed to be Harvest 7's capital city, High Gothic, a population center that had damaged 3 million people, killed my crew. The city was gone, pursued us across 3 systems, absorbed. Every structure had been consumed and converted into organic matter. The streets were now capillary tubes pulsing surrender your fleet. The buildings were digestion chambers where Tyranid organisms processed biomass into usable resources. Justice. The air itself was thick with flying creatures that served as the hive fleet's You waged xenocide across the galaxy. Brother Marcus shouted righteousness. Ripper swarms, 300 meters and closing. The Rippers came like a living carpet, led by a thousand upon thousands of small Tyranid organisms, species from each the size of a large dog, moving with insect-style coordination. Individually, they were barely threats to a space marine. I will offer you something better. They were a weapon of pure attrition, designed to overwhelm through sheer numbers, while larger organisms provided a lesson in humility. He drew both power and fire with everything we had. I had trained against every combat scenario the flamers simulated entire swarms into charred biomass. I had fought every Ripper we close quarters. 10 more emerged. I had battled Tyranid organisms designed specifically for melee combat. This was the Tyranid way. I had dueled against veteran space creatures to exhaust the enemy's ammunition. None of it had prepared me for specialized Eldar warriors when defenses failed. Perfecting swordplay for 3 conserve ammunition. Itharian moved like liquid lightning. Fall back to the Thunderhawks. Blades creating a whirlwind. But the hive mind had predicted our retreat. That should have been larger organisms emerged from the digestion structure. Marius first. Tyranid warriors. 17 sword 2.5 meter tall creatures. Each blow bioweapons armored fired living helmet seals. Genestealers with swift predators with razor claws that Marius parried with his chainsword. Carnifexes, the weapons, living screaming as whose massive frames shook the ground with each step. I fired my bolter. I realized with horrible clarity, trying to support Marius without hitting him in the crossfire. We were the prey. Thyran dodged. Genestealer hit our right flank with force that made even my pure physical reflex that allowed him to track the Justinian's trajectories. A newly inducted battle brother named Thaddeus flight path didn't even have time to raise his bolter charged Genestealer's with his thunderhammer. As chest spun, and both used one power sword to deflect the hammer's descending blow, and drove his second sword through Leonidas's gorget with perfect precision. I fired a burst. The blade pierced Leonidas's primary blowing apart its brain case. Then Marius's chainsword caught Etharin's left arm at the elbow. On top of Thaddeus's claws. The adamantine claws still embedded in Eldar armor. They're adapting. Flesh. Marcus shouted. Etharin watch the left flank. The first Tyranid warriors advanced with range support and staggered. Tyranid warriors moved. I closed the distance and fired my bolt. Using point blank suppressing fire tactics, emptying my entire magazine into Etharin's organisms without individual The Eldar prince collapsed, but the hive mind, elegant armor, the Gestalt consciousness, his blood controlling every Tyranid organism, pristine was learning from us in real time. He looked up at me, analyzing our tactics, too large and evolving counter strategies, too knowing. A barbed tendril is dying. Living ammunition fired from a Tyranid warrior's bioweapon. Caught the only question is whether you'll take punching through my ceramite plating. We burrowing into my flesh. I replied. My standing membrane immediately activated. That is what humanity does. Slowing my metabolism to prevent the tendrils' toxins from spreading. His voice fading. I felt it trying to burrow deeper, trying to reach my black carapace implant. We lived interface my nervous system with my We had an empire of such beauty that your primitive language lacks words to describe it. The barbed length tore free in a spray of my own blood, taking a chunk of flesh with it. And the pain was transcendent. You will fall too. My enhanced not because neuroglottic receptors, but because you are strong damage to think that would have killed an unmodified human. He died with his eyes alone, still staring at me. Pain was information that might have been pity. Castor, status. Marius knelt beside Brother Leonidas, Sergeant, whose secondary heart had taken over life support functions. We need to reach the industrial sector. He'll survive. That's where the rad toxin stores are located. The apothecarian can repair. We fought a running battle through 3 kilometers of converted cityscape. You'll kill Brother Castor. Every meter purchased with ammunition and blood. The Tyranids adapted to every tactic we employed. The Eldar used flamers' words. They sent organisms in my mind with disturbing resonance. When I looked around the overlapping fields of fire, its elegance, they attacked from unexpected angles. It's evidence using organisms that achieved heights or scale humanity could barely imagine. When we tried to break come here to destroy it, they herded us with perfect coordination. I asked toward kill zones where larger organisms awaited the Imperium dying. This was Marius was silent for a long moment. This was being digested. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of Harvest 7's industrial sector after 2
Every
hours
empire
of
dies eventually,
combat.
Castor.
Half our company
The
is
Eldars
dead.
died
Our
in a
ammunition
single
reserves
catastrophic
were at
moment
30%.
of excess.
Brother Apothecary
Ours died
himself
slowly,
had taken a carnifex
gradually,
horn through his abdomen,
losing ground
the
every
wound
year to
severe enough
XENOS,
that even his enhanced
heretics,
biology
and
struggled
chaos.
to compensate. But here's what that
The
arrogant
industrial
bastard
sector's
didn't
rad
understand.
toxin
Storage facility, we know we're
still
dying.
partially
intact. A
We've known for
reinforced
10,000 years.
bunker that had resisted
And we
the
keep
Tyranid
fighting anyway.
digestion. Thanks to its
That's
radiation
the difference
shielding.
between the Eldar
Inside,
and humanity.
we found 200 canisters
They
of
achieved
industrial-grade
perfection and
radioactive
couldn't maintain
material.
it.
We
Enough
never
to achieve
poisoned
perfection
Harvest
at
7's
all.
biomass.
We just refused
to render
to
it
quit.
unusable for Tyranid consumption.
We secured the swift retribution 40
We also
minutes
found
later.
survivors. The remaining Eldar Corsairs, 43 human beings huddled in the
Prince
facility's
Etharin's
basement
fleet
level.
Was destroyed.
Maintenance workers
His
and their
decades-long
families
raiding
who had
campaign
hidden here
ended.
when the Tyranid
The
invasion
Imperium
began.
supply lines
They
were
looked
secure,
secure with expressions
by
of
any
desperate
tactical
hope.
measure.
It was a complete
These thin,
victory. Starving people.
So why did I
who
feel
still
like I'd
believed
lost
the
something?
Imperium would
Alice
save
Prime
them. Represented everything the
Captain
Tau Empire
Ardius
believed
surveyed
it
them
could be,
with his
a
scarred
monument
face
to their
impassive.
philosophy of the
Then he
greater
turned to
good.
me.
Where
Brother
multiple
Sergeant
species
Castor,
lived
you
in
understand
apparent
our mission
harmony under Tau
parameters.
guidance. I did. The city
To deny the
sprawled
Hive
across
fleet
the planet's
biomass,
temperate zone.
we needed
like
to
a planned
contaminate
utopia.
this facility
immediately.
Sleek
The
towers
rad
of toxins
toxins
would
would
spread
spread
through
through
Harvest
Harvest
7's
7's organic structures,
integrated transport
killing
systems,
any Tyranid
public
organisms
spaces
that had
designed for
consumed local
maximum
biomass
efficiency
and
minimal
making the
conflict.
entire planet
From
a
orbit,
poison chalice. It looked like
The
humanity's
radiation
own
would
golden
also
age,
kill
every
every
living
small,
thing within 10
clean,
kilometers, including these
organized,
43
peaceful.
survivors. I hated
Captain,
it on sight.
I said slowly.
The third company, there must be an alternative to Dalith
We
Prime
could evacuate these
in
citizens
response to
first.
increasingly
With what
disturbing
transport?
intelligence
Ardius
reports.
interrupted.
Our Thunderhawks are at minimum fuel
worlds
reserves
in the
under
Damocles
constant
Gulf
repetition
attack.
to join
Every
the Tau
minute we
Empire.
delay
Gives the
not
Hive
conquered,
Fleet more time to extract biomass from this world.
Human governors,
Every minute we delay
tired of
costs
the
the Imperium's
more
grinding
ships,
demands
more
for
worlds,
tithes and
more
troops,
lives in future
tired of
engagements,
watching their population
43
suffer
lives against
under
millions.
bureaucratic
The
calculus and
is
religious
simple.
zealotry.
They're human,
Had looked at
I
their
insisted,
Tau neighbours,
and the words
decided
felt
that
like
greater
heresy
good
against my
offered a better
tactical
future
condition
than the God Emperor.
We exist to protect humanity.
This was heresy.
We
of
exist
the
to ensure
highest order,
humanity's survival,
not the heresy of
Ardius
chaos
corrected,
corruption or Xenos
Sometimes that means
collaboration
making
through
choices
force.
that seem monstrous.
Something
Do you
far
think
more
I want this,
insidious.
brother? Do you think
The
any of us
heresy of
want
choice.
this? Our
He
mission
gestured
was
to
to
the
survivors
survivors
who could eliminate the Tau diplomatic
but
corps
could see us
coordinating
arguing.
the defections.
Look at them.
Extract
Remember their
or
faces,
terminate the human
because this is
governors
what
who had
serving the
turned traitor
Imperium
means, and send
Sometimes
an unmistakable
you
message
save
that
humanity by
abandoning
letting
the
humans
Imperium carried
die.
fatal
One of the
consequences.
survivors, a woman holding
Captain
a child
Ardius
who
briefed
couldn't
us
have
in
been
the
strike
Strike
cruiser's
Cruiser's
strategium.
Old, approached us with shaking courage.
Grave. You're here to save us?
The Tau are
She
not like
asked
the
in a voice
Orks or
hoarse from
Eldar
dehydration.
They are
Couldn't
young.
speak.
Their
My
civilization
transhuman
is barely
condition,
6,000
my
years
decades
old.
of training,
Children
my
by
absolute
galactic
faith in the
standards.
Emperor's will.
They possess
All of it
technology
failed
that
in that
rivals
moment.
or exceeds ours
Captain
in some
Ardius
areas.
answered for me.
Their
Yes,
plasma
he
weaponry
lied
was
with a
more
gentleness
efficient.
that surprised me.
Their
We're here
battle
to save
suits
you,
provide their
but we need
infantry
you to
with
wait here
firepower
while we
equivalent
secure
to
the
our
dreadnoughts.
dreadnoughts. Can you do that? Their
The
drone
woman
nodded
warfare
gratefully,
and AI
tears streaming
integration
down
would
her
be considered
face.
tech
Thank
heresy
you.
of the highest
Thank
order
you.
if
We
humanity
prayed to the
employed
Emperor,
similar
and he
systems.
sent you. We left the
paused,
basement and sealed the
letting
door
that sink
behind
in.
us. Brother Marcus said
But
their
the
greatest
toxin
weapon
canisters
isn't
dispersal
technology
timers for 15
it's
minutes.
ideology.
Enough time
The
for us
Tau
to reach
genuinely
minimum
believed
safe
in the greater
distance.
good.
Not enough
A
time for the
philosophy
survivors
that
to
all
realize
sentient
what was
species
happening.
can cooperate for mutual benefit.
As we withdrew from the
They
facility,
offer human
I heard
worlds
the child
infrastructure,
inside singing,
technology,
some innocent
reduced
song about
taxation,
sunshine and gardens,
representation in
relics
their
of a
empire.
life that no longer
They
existed.
are, by every
In 8
measure,
minutes,
more humane
the radiation
rulers
would
than the
vaporize
Imperium.
her and everyone she loved.
Then why do we fight them?
Sergeant
The young
Marius,
brother asked.
I voxed on a
Because
private
humanity's
channel.
survival is not
I
negotiable.
need to understand
Ardius
this.
replied.
Those people
His
trust
voice
us.
hard as adamantine.
I know.
The
Marius
Tau's
replied.
greater good
His voice
is
heavy with
predicated
grief.
on
I'd
Tau
never heard from
leadership
him before.
Tau
That's the
culture,
worst part,
Tau
Castor.
philosophy.
They trusted us right
They
up
offer
until
humanity.
the end.
They
The choice
died
between
believing the Emperor
subservience
protected
dressed
them.
as partnership.
Did he?
Or
He
extinction
protected humanity,
dressed as
Marius
unfortunate
said.
necessity.
Just not them specifically.
They are
That's
colonizers
the difference between
who have
individuals
perfected
and
the art
species.
of making
We
subjugation
fight for the species.
look like
Sometimes
liberation.
individuals get sacrificed.
Make no mistake,
If you
brothers.
can't accept that,
The
you
Tau
can't be
are
a space
existential
marine.
threats,
The rad
not
toxins
because they want to
detonated
destroy
on schedule.
humanity.
They're expanding
But
waves
because
of
they want to
radiation
save
tearing
us
through
on their
Harvest 7's
terms,
organic structures with
under their
devastating
guidance.
efficiency.
And
The
billions
Tyranid
of humans
organisms
began
are foolish
dying
enough
within
to believe
seconds.
them. Their adaptive
The
biology
mission parameters
unable
were
to
clear.
cope with contamination,
Surgical
at the cellular
strike
level.
on Dalith
Within
Prime's
hours,
diplomatic
the
quarter.
Hive Fleet would abandon
Maximum
Harvest 7 as a
casualties
poisoned
to Tau
world.
leadership.
No longer worth
With
the
withdrawal
resources
before
to
their
harvest.
military forces could
We had
mount
won.
organized
At
response.
the cost of 9 million human lives,
Simple in
and
concept,
43 souls,
viciously
who had looked at me
difficult
with
in
hope.
execution.
On the return
We
journey
deployed
to the
via
Sword of
drop
Macragge,
pods.
I
One
sat
man
in the
coffins of
Thunderhawk's troop bay
ceramite
covered in
and prayer that
Tyranid
plummeted
ichor
through
and my own
Prime.
blood, staring at my gauntlets.
velocity.
These hands had
My
killed
pod's
Orks by
machine
the
spirit
hundreds.
chanted
They had
litanies as
executed
gravitational
Eldar
forces
forces
and
and
Tau
7
diplomats.
Gs against my
They had burned
transhuman
traitors
frame.
and heretics
The
without
pod's
hesitation.
external sensors showed
But
Tau
the people in that
anti-aircraft
basement
batteries
they had
tracking
been
our descent.
innocent,
Railgun
loyal,
rounds reaching up
they had
like
done nothing
fingers of
wrong
light to
except
swat us from
have
the
the
sky.
misfortune to live on a
Brother
world
Justinian's
the Tyranids
pod was
targeted
hit
at 4,000
First,
meters altitude.
time you've had
the
to
railgun's
sacrifice the
hypersonic
innocent.
projectile.
Brother
punched
Apothecary
clean through
Kalen
the pod's
passed,
armor,
his own
through
wounds bound
Justinian's
but still
torso,
seeping blood
and out
through
the
the
opposite
bandages.
side.
His
Yes,
pod
I
tumbled out
admitted.
of control
It
and
doesn't get
crashed into
easier,
the outskirts of
Kalen
the
said.
city. Anyone who
A
tells you it
crater
gets
and a
easier is
corpse.
lying or broken.
A space
Every
marine's
time you
death
make that
without
choice,
glory
you
or
lose a
witness.
piece of your soul.
My
My
question
question
is
is
whether
whether
humanity's
humanity's
survival
survival
is
diplomatic
worth your
quarter
soul.
at 190 meters
Kalen
per
was
second
silent for a long time.
The impact
Finally,
cratered the
ask
elegant
me again when
stonework,
humanity
shattered
extinct,
sculptures,
and I'm the last
and
space
sent
marine.
Tau
Then
civilians
I'll tell you if
scattering
it was
in
worth
terror.
it.
That
The
answer
pod's frontal
terrified
hatch
me more
blew
than
off
any
with
XENOS
explosive
threat,
bolts,
because it implied
I
that
emerged
even
into
victory,
an alien world.
even
Tau's
humanity's
ultimate
civilians
survival
surrounded me, might not
blue-skinned
justify the
beings
things
with
we
no
did to
visible
achieve
nose.
it. Small physiques
thought about the
averaging
Tyranids,
1.5 meters
organisms organisms without souls or
wearing
choice,
practical
driven
clothing
only by
that
hunger.
marked them as workers.
Were we so different?
Administrators,
We were driven by duty,
artists,
by faith, by the
They
Emperor's
stared at me
will,
with large
but in the
eyes
end,
that showed
we
more
consumed
curiosity
innocence,
than
just
fear.
as surely as the Tyranids
One of them,
consumed
a young
biomass.
female by the
only
only
difference
difference
was
that
Tau
we knew what
biology
we were doing,
approached
did it
with hands
anyway.
raised in what I
Chapter
assumed
6,
was a peaceful gesture.
The ancient Phosix.
We mean
months
no
after
harm,
Harvest 7,
she said in
the
passable
third company
Gothic.
received deployment
Please,
orders to the
there is
Sautek
no need for
dynasty's
violence.
tomb world of
We can
Thanatos.
discuss. The briefing
I
materials
shot her.
were sparse. The bolt round took her in the chest, possible detonating inside her body cavity, mission parameters to investigate and eliminate mass reactive ammunition. Standard protocol for dealing with the galaxy's oldest shower of blue blood and tissue fragments. I had never fought Necrons. The civilians around her screamed training covered their essential nature, understanding what a space marine represented. Once a flesh and blood species called the Necron tier, pure and they had transferred their consciousness.
Third company,
into
form up!
Mechanical body.
Captain
60
Ardius
commanded over the Vox, becoming living metal
Assault
warriors
pattern
of
Delta
terrifying
7.
resilience.
Warlord
Their
protocols
technology predated
authorized.
humanity
No
by
prisoners.
tens of millions
No
of
mercy.
years.
We
Their
advanced
weapons
through
manipulated
Daleth
fundamental
Prime's
forces of
diplomatic
reality,
quarter,
and
like
they
a
had
tide
decided,
of blue
after
ceramite
sleeping for
and
eons,
bolter-fire,
that the galaxy
Tau
belonged to them.
Firecast warriors,
The
their
tomb
military
world
arm,
appeared dead from
responded
orbit,
with admirable
a planet
speed.
of grey stone
Their
and
battle
silence,
suits deploying
its
from
surface
hidden barracks
unmarked by
with their
vegetation
plasma
or
weapons
weather.
already charging.
No atmospheric interference.
These were
no
not
thermal
the elegant
signatures,
warriors of
no
the Eldar
electromagnetic
or the
emissions,
brutal monsters
just
of the
stillness
Orks
that felt wrong.
These
on a
were
fundamental
professional
level.
soldiers employing
Necrons
combined
are not
arms
like
of
other
XENOS
Xenos
that would not be out of place in the Codex Astartes
deployment
itself.
They do
A
not
Tau
eat,
crisis
breathe, or
battlesuit
reproduce.
team.
They cannot
Three
be
soldiers in
poisoned,
advanced
suffocated, or
powered
starved.
armor mounting
They
plasma
feel no
rifles
pain,
and
no
missile
fear, no
pods.
mercy.
Ambushed
They
our
are,
right flank
in every
from
measurable
elevated
way,
positions,
superior to organic
Their tactical
life.
doctrine
Our
is sound.
advantages are few.
Establish
They are
superior
slow to
firing
wait from
position.
stasis.
Engage at
Their
maximum
command
range.
protocols have
Maintain
hierarchies
mobility
we can
advantage.
exploit, and they are
Their plasma
fundamentally
weapons
arrogant.
fired in
They
controlled
do not
bursts.
see us as threats.
Each shot a
merely
sun-hot
insects to be
projectile that can
exterminated.
melt through ceramite armor with
How do we kill
sustained
something
fire?
that's already dead?
Brother Sergeant
A young
Marius
brother
took a
asked.
plasma hit to his
With
left
difficulty,
difficulty.
or
The
superheated
superheated matter
grimly,
boring through
and
the
with the
blessed
knowledge that every
ceramite and
Necron
scorching the
warrior you
flesh
destroy
beneath.
will eventually
He didn't
self-repair
slow
and return to
didn't
kill you
acknowledge
another
the
day.
wound. There is no
He
true
just
victory
adjusted
against
his
the
aim
Necrons
and fired his
only
heavy
temporary
bolter in
setbacks
long
to their
sustained
internal
bursts
plans
that
forced the crisis suits
We
to
made
maintain
planetfall in
evasive
drop
maneuvers
pods,
instead
targeting
of accurate
coordinates
fire.
where Imperial surveyors
Castor
had detected
devoxed.
unusual energy
Flank
readings
left.
beneath
Take the
Thanatos'
missile
surface.
suit. Marcus,
The landing was unopposed.
suppress the center.
No anti-aircraft
On my
fire.
mark.
No defensive
We moved
measures.
with practiced
Just the oppressive
coordination.
silence of a dead.
I broke
world.
from the main assault
The ruins
line,
emerged
using
from
the
the grey
diplomatic
stone
quarters
like
architecture for cover
teeth,
as I closed
structures
distance.
of black metal.
The Tau doctrine
green glowing
was to engage at
hieroglyphs that had
range
stood
where their
for 60
superior
million
firepower provided
years without
overwhelming
weathering.
advantage.
The architecture defied human
Space Marine
aesthetic
doctrine
sensibility.
was close to melee
Every
range,
angle seemed
where our
mathematically
transhuman
precise,
strength
yet
turned us
subtly
into
wrong,
unstoppable killing
as if
machines.
designed by minds
The Tau
that
pilot
understood
operating
geometry
the
in ways
missile-equipped
organic
crisis
crisis
suit
couldn't
saw me
process,
coming
and adjusted his position.
spread out
His battle
Captain
suits
Ardius
jump jets
commanded.
firing in
Standard
controlled
search
bursts.
Watch for
Missiles streaked
the
toward
ground
them.
beneath Brother
8
Marcus simply
warheads
ceased
tracking
to
via
exist.
advanced
One
guidance
moment
systems.
he stood on solid
I
stone.
couldn't dodge them all.
The next,
So I didn't
the
try.
rock face transformed into
I
a
shot 3
dimensional
missiles
portal
out of the air
crackling
with
green
precise
energy.
bolter fire.
Marcus
My
fell through
transhuman
with a
reflexes
startled
allowing
shout that cut
impossible
off abruptly
accuracy.
as the
2
portal
more
missiles
snapped
I
closed,
simply endured,
leaving
their
perfect
explosions
stone
washing
where
over
he'd
my
been
armor
standing.
in flame
Contact.
shrapnel that
I
was
shouted,
vaporized and
raising my
unarmed
bolter
human.
and scanning for threats.
The remaining
They
3
rose
missiles
from the
went
stone
wide,
itself,
their
Necron
guidance
warriors
systems
phasing
confused
into
by the
reality as their
explosion
quantum
surrounding
shielding
me.
deactivated.
20 skeletal figures of living metal, each over 2 meters tall, their bodies adorned with dynastic glyphs that glowed with the same eerie green light that powered their Gorse weapons. The Necrons opened fire without warning or declaration. Their Gorse flayers, weapons that stripped matter atom by atom, swept across our position in coordinated volleys. Brother Demetrius took a burst across his chest plate. I watched in horror as his blessed ceramite armor simply dissolved, followed by the flesh beneath, then the bone, then nothing. He collapsed in pieces, his body disintegrating before he could even scream. Heavy weapons, suppressing fire, Marius roared. Close quarters, don't let them target you. I charged the nearest Necron warrior, my chainsword revving to full power. The warrior tracked my approach with mechanical precision, its Gorse flayer adjusting aim with movements too smooth, too perfect to be natural. I dodged left as it fired, the molecular disintegration beam missing me by centimeters. Then I was inside its reach. My chainsword struck the Necron's torso with enough force to cleave a human in half. The adamantium teeth bit into living metal, spraying sparks and fragments. The warrior staggered but didn't fall, its self-repair protocols already activating. Nanoscarabs swarming over the wound to rebuild damaged systems. It struck me with its gas flayer's stock. The blow delivered with strength that dented my ceramite chestplate and cracked 2 of my fused ribs. Pain exploded through my torso, my Laraman's organ immediately flooding my bloodstream with coagulants. I drove my chainsword through the Necron's skull, destroying whatever passed for its consciousness core. The green light in its eyes flickered and died. The warrior collapsed, but I knew it was only temporary. In minutes or hours, it would phase back to its tomb complex for full reconstruction. They're not staying down, Brother Leonidas shouted, his thunderhammer crushing a Necron warrior into sparking fragments that immediately began crawling back together. "Aim for the command units," Captain Ardius ordered. "The warriors operate on quantum network protocols. Sever the connection and they'll shut down." But finding command units in the chaos of close quarters combat proved impossible. The Necrons fought with mechanical efficiency, their movements coordinated by processing power that exceeded any Imperial cogitator. They didn't tire. They didn't panic. They simply executed their combat protocols with perfect precision. We were winning the tactical, engagement, Space Marine transhuman. Capabilities proved superior to Necron infantry warriors in melee range, but the strategic situation was deteriorating. For every Necron we destroyed, our ammunition reserves decreased, our armor sustained damage, and our bodies accumulated wounds that even our enhanced biology struggled to heal. This was the Necron strategy. Attrition warfare across timescales measured in millennia. They could afford to lose every engagement for 10,000 years and still emerge victorious, because they were immortal and we were. Not a dimensional rift tore open in the center of the battlefield. Not the small portal that had taken Marcus, but a massive gateway through which something far worse emerged. The Necron Overlord stood 3 meters tall, its body a masterwork of living metal adorned with dynastic regalia that marked it as nobility of the Sautek dynasty. It carried a war scythe, a weapon combining molecular disassembly with quantum edge technology, and moved with predatory grace that belied its mechanical nature. When it spoke, its voice was not vocalized but transmitted directly into our helmet systems, bypassing all communication security. Inferior constructs of flesh. You trespass in the domain of the Sautek dynasty. You will be catalogued, dissected, and stored in our memory archives. Resistance is statistically irrelevant. Captain Ardius stepped forward to meet the Overlord, his power sword igniting with crackling energy fields. "I am Captain Ardius of the Ultramarines' 3rd Company, servant of the God Emperor of mankind. Your claim to this galaxy expired 60 million years ago. Humanity inherits the stars now." The Overlord's mechanical approximation of laughter was like grinding metal. "Humanity, you speak of that brief flicker of organic chaos that has infested our galaxy during our slumber. You are not inheritors. You are not even worthy opponents. You are temporary." Ardius attacked with the speed and fury of 400 years combat experience. His power sword struck the Overlord's war scythe in a shower of sparks, the blessed weapon's energy field contesting the XENOS technology. They dueled with a skill that transcended mere fighting. This was a clash between ancient nobility and transhuman dedication, between living metal and gene-forged flesh. The Overlord fought with mathematical perfection, every parry and strike calculated for maximum efficiency. But Ardius fought with something the Necron couldn't quantify: faith, hatred, and the accumulated wisdom of centuries of warfare against every XENOS threat imaginable. "You cannot defeat me," the Overlord transmitted, its war scythe deflecting Ardius's blade. "I have fought for 60 million years. I commanded legions when your ancestors were single-celled organisms. I am beyond death, beyond defeat, beyond..." Ardius's power sword found the Overlord's neck joint, the one structural weakness in its otherwise impenetrable armor. The blade sheared through living metal and quantum circuitry, severing the Overlord's head from its body. The Overlord's corpse collapsed, its command protocols disrupted. Instantly, every Necron warrior in the engagement shut down, their quantum network links severed by their commander's destruction. "Consolidate position," Ardius commanded. "They'll be back online in minutes once another command unit activates. We need to reach the tomb complex and destroy their stasis crypts before..." The ground began to shake. Not the tremor of explosions or impacts, but a deep, resonant vibration that felt like the planet itself was waking from sleep. Across Thanatos' surface, structures that had been dormant for eons began to glow with that distinctive Necron green. Tomb complexes activating, stasis crypts opening, an entire dynasty's military force beginning its awakening sequence. "How many?" Marius asked, his voice tight with concern I'd rarely heard. Brother Leonidas, monitoring our Auspex readings, responded with numbers that defied belief. "Millions, tens of millions. The entire crust of this planet is hollow, one massive tomb complex. Captain, we've stumbled into a dynasty capital world." Captain Ardius was silent for 3 seconds, an eternity in combat situations. When he spoke, his voice carried absolute authority and terrible understanding. Third company, immediate withdrawal to extraction point. This mission is now intelligence gathering only. We cannot contest a force of this magnitude. We're retreating, a young brother asked, disbelief in his voice. We're surviving, Ardius corrected. There is no honor in dying for no tactical gain. The Imperium needs to know what we've discovered here. Fall back now. We withdrew in fighting formation, covering each other as more Necron warriors phased into reality around us. The tomb world was coming alive, its ancient mechanisms activating with mechanical precision after millions of years of dormancy. Canoptech constructs, scarabs and wraiths and tomb spiders emerged, from hidden alcoves to repair damaged warriors and eliminate intruders. Brother Marcus never returned, lost, to whatever dimensional space the Necron portal had sent him to. Brothers Demetrius, Thaddeus, and 9 others died in the running battle to reach our extraction point. Each death was efficient, quick, and ultimately meaningless in the face of an enemy that numbered in the millions. We boarded our Thunderhawks under heavy fire, Gorse weapons, dissolving armor plating, and structural supports. The gunship carrying Squad Meridius took a direct hit from a Necron heavy destroyer's weapon. The entire vehicle simply ceased to exist. Molecular bonds broken at the quantum level. 15 Space Marines erased in a microsecond. As we ascended through Thanatos' atmosphere, I watched through the Thunderhawk's viewport as the tomb world fully awakened. Vast structures rose from the planet's crust, pyramid ships kilometers in length, weapon platforms that could threaten battleships, and defensive batteries that turned the sky into a web of lethal green energy. That's what we're facing, Marius said quietly, standing beside me at the viewport. Not a species, not an empire, a force of nature that has already survived the death of the Old Ones, the war in heaven, and the fall of the Eldar. They were building galaxies-spanning empires when humanity's ancestors were learning to make fire. Then how do we fight them? I asked. We don't, Marius replied. Not directly. We do what humanity has always done. We survive through adaptability, through numbers, through sheer stubborn refusal to accept extinction. The Necrons are superior in every measurable way, but they're also rigid, bound by protocols and hierarchies and dynastic politics that haven't changed in 60 million years. They think in eons, we think in generations. That makes us flexible in ways they can't understand. Back aboard the Sword of Macragge, Captain Ardius transmitted our intelligence findings to Fleet Command. His report was clinical, precise, and terrifying. The Sautek dynasty was awakening across multiple tomb worlds. Millions of Necron warriors, thousands of command units, and technological weapons that could threaten entire Imperial sectors. But the final line of his report carried a different message. Recommend avoidance engagement. Necron forces are currently fragmented, their command structure incomplete. They are not yet ready for large-scale warfare. If we can maintain pressure on their awakening tomb worlds, we may be able to prevent them from achieving strategic coordination. In other words, we couldn't defeat the Necrons, but we might be able to delay them. That night, I meditated in the chapter's Reclusium, kneeling before an altar dedicated to Robauta Guilliman, our Primarch, and the author of the Codex Astartes. I thought about everything I had learned about XENOS species, the Orks' endless war, the Eldar's desperate survival, the Tau's naive idealism, the Tyranids' hunger, the Necrons' ancient supremacy. Every species had a reason to believe they deserved the galaxy. Every species had advantages that should have made them dominant, and yet humanity persisted, not through superiority. We were inferior to the Eldar in almost every way. Not through technology. The Necrons had built wonders before humans existed. Not through unity. The Tau's greater good was more cohesive than our fractured Imperium. Not through numbers. The Tyranids could field forces that dwarfed our populations. We persisted through faith, through will, through the Emperor's vision that humanity deserved to exist simply because we existed. It wasn't logical. It wasn't fair. It was just will. Brother Chaplain Orton found me in the Reclusium hours later, still kneeling, still contemplating. You've seen them all now, he said. Every major XENOS threat. What have you learned? That we're doomed, I replied honestly. Every species we face has advantages we can't match. The galaxy is full of threats that should have destroyed us millennia ago. By any logical assessment, humanity should be extinct, and yet we're not, Ortan said. Why? Because logic doesn't account for faith. Because strategy doesn't account for sacrifice. Because the Emperor's will transcends what should be possible. Precisely, Orta nodded. Every XENOS species you've fought makes sense according to some framework. Biological imperative, cultural necessity, technological advantage. Humanity makes no sense at all. We should have died 1,000 times over, and that is exactly why we'll survive. We don't play by the galaxy's rules. We make our own. He placed a heavy hand on my shoulder. You're ready, Brother Sergeant Castor. Ready to lead, ready to teach, ready to pass these lessons to the next generation. The galaxy is full of XENOS who think they know what humanity is. Your job is to prove them wrong, again and again, until the heat death of the universe or the Emperor's return, whichever comes first. I stood, my transhuman frame unfolding to its full height. And if they're right, if humanity is doomed despite everything we do, then we make our damnation so costly, so violent, so absolutely defiant that the galaxy remembers us for eternity. If mankind must fall, let us fall like a collapsing star, taking everything else with us in the final conflagration. It was, I realized, the most honest answer anyone had ever given me, and it was enough. Chapter 7. What We Think. 20 years after my first deployment to Armageddon, I stood before a cohort of neophytes in the same gallery of abominations where my own education had begun. I was now Brother Sergeant Castor, commander of my own squad, veteran of 193 engagements across 89 worlds. The scars on my face and the honor markings on my armor told stories of every XENO species I'd faced. The 12 aspirants before me were young, most barely 16 Terran standard years, their bodies already transforming with gene seed implantation, their minds sharp with hypno-conditioning but still innocent of true war. They looked at me with the same mixture of awe and determination I had once felt looking at Brother Sergeant Marius. I am Brother Sergeant Castor, I began, my voice carrying the authority of 2 decades' experience. For the next 6 months, I will teach you what the Codex Astartes cannot. I will teach you not what XENOS are, but what they think they are. This distinction will save your lives. I activated the hololith projector, and the image of an orc materialized, massive, brutal, grinning. The greenskin, I said. What does he think he is? The neophytes recited their memorized doctrine about fungal biology and psychic gestalt fields. I let them finish, then shook my head. Wrong. An orc thinks he is the luckiest being in the galaxy. He was born for war, lives for war, and dies in war with a smile on his face. You cannot break an orc's morale because he has no morale to break, only joy in violence. When you fight orcs, you are not facing enemies. You are facing beings who see combat as the highest form of religious ecstasy. Kill them fast, kill them efficiently, and never ever try to intimidate them. They'll just respect you more and fight harder. The hololith shifted to an Eldar, graceful, ancient, proud. The Eldar, I continued. What do they think they are? Superior to humanity in every way, one aspirant ventured. Deeper, I commanded. An Eldar looks at humanity and sees their own past. Arrogant, numerous, expanding across the galaxy without understanding the dangers. They know what happens when a species reaches too far because they are what happens. Every Eldar you meet is simultaneously the most arrogant being you'll encounter and the most terrified. They're survivors of an apocalypse so complete it tore a hole in reality. When an Eldar attacks you, it's not from hatred. It's from existential terror that you'll repeat their mistake and drag the galaxy down with you. I paused, making sure they absorb this. Does understanding their fear mean you spare them? No, Brother Sergeant, they replied in unison. Correct. Understanding is not sympathy. It's tactical advantage. An Eldar who's afraid can be predicted. An Eldar who thinks he's superior can be baited into mistakes. Know their psychology, exploit their weaknesses, and kill them before they kill you. The hololith shifted again. A Tau fire warrior in his sleek battlesuit. The Tau, young species, advanced technology, philosophy based on the greater good, the idea that all species can cooperate for mutual benefit. What do they think they are? The neophytes were silent, uncertain. This was the question that troubled most young space marines because the Tau's vision sounded almost reasonable. The Tau think they are the galaxy's saviors, I explained. They genuinely believe they can bring peace, prosperity, and unity to a galaxy that has known nothing but war for millennia. This makes them the most dangerous XENOS you'll face. Not because they're physically superior, but because they're philosophically appealing. Billions of humans look at the Tau Empire and see what the Imperium could be if we weren't so brutal, so inefficient, so bound by dogma. I leaned forward, my scarred face inches from the nearest neophyte. Here's what the Tau don't tell you. Their greater good is not negotiable. You can join willingly and be a second-class citizen under Tau leadership, or you can resist and be eliminated as a threat to galactic harmony. They offer humanity a choice between subservience dressed as partnership or extinction dressed as unfortunate necessity. Never forget that behind their reasonable words and advanced technology, they're still colonizers who want to remake the galaxy in their image. The lessons continued for weeks. I taught them about the Tyranids, hunger given form, evolution weaponized, a threat that made all other XENOS conflicts seem petty by comparison. I taught them about the Necrons, living metal gods who viewed organic life as temporary infestation in a galaxy that belonged to them. I taught them about Dark Eldar, about chaos-corrupted XENOS, about every variation of alien threat that humanity faced. But more importantly, I taught them what it meant to be a space marine fighting in a galaxy that made no logical sense. You will face opponents who are faster than you, I told them during a training session in the simulation chambers. Eldar aspect warriors will dodge your shots through precognitive ability. What do? Fire where they're going to be, not where they are, an aspirant named Constantine replied. Partially correct, I acknowledged, but also make the entire area lethal. Can't dodge what you can't see coming. Use explosives, flamers, area denial weapons. Turn their mobility advantage into a liability by removing safe spaces to dodge into. I ran them through scenario after scenario, each one designed to teach not just tactics, but philosophy. How do you fight an enemy who feels no pain? Target their command structure and coordination instead. How do you fight an enemy with superior technology, close to melee range where technology matters less than transhuman strength? How do you fight an enemy with greater numbers? Make every kill cost them more than they're willing to pay. One evening, young Constantine approached me privately in the training cages. Brother Sergeant, I have a question that troubles me. Speak. You've taught us to understand XENOS psychology, to see their perspectives, comprehend their motivations, analyze their fears and hopes. Doesn't that risk sympathy? It was the same question I had asked Marius 2 decades earlier. I smiled at the cyclical nature of mentorship. Yes, I said honestly. Understanding XENOS psychology absolutely risks sympathy. It also risks questioning the Imperium's doctrines, doubting the righteousness of our cause, and wondering if there might be alternatives to endless warfare. These are dangerous thoughts. Constantine looked troubled. Then why teach us this? Why risk heresy? Because ignorance is more dangerous than heresy, I replied. A space marine who doesn't understand his enemies will make tactical mistakes that get his brothers killed. A space marine who understands his enemies but lacks the discipline to separate understanding from sympathy is a liability. But a space marine who understands his enemies, acknowledges their perspectives, and still chooses to fight for humanity, that is a warrior of true faith. I gestured to the gallery of abominations visible through the training cage's viewports. Every XENOS species has a story that justifies their actions. The Orks are genetically programmed for war. The Eldar are desperately trying to survive their species' apocalypse. The Tau genuinely believe they're saving the galaxy. The Tyranids are just following their biological imperative to consume. None of them are evil from their own perspectives. They're just existing according to their nature. Then what makes us right? Constantine asked. Nothing, I said, and watched his eyes widen. There is no cosmic justice that declares humanity deserves the galaxy more than any other species. We're not more virtuous than the Eldar, not more unified than the Tau, not more powerful than the Necrons. We're just us, and we've decided that our existence is non-negotiable. That's not righteousness, that's will. That's the Emperor's gift to humanity, the absolute conviction that we deserve to survive simply because we choose to. I pointed to the Ork specimen in its stasis field. The greenskin would understand this perfectly. He doesn't fight because it's right or wrong. He fights because fighting is what he is. We're the same. We fight for humanity, not because we're morally superior, but because we're human and humans protect their own. The moment you need external validation for that choice is the moment you've lost the faith necessary to be a space marine. Constantine absorbed this in silence. Finally, so we're no different from the XENOS. We just have a different story we tell ourselves. Exactly, I confirmed. The difference is we're willing to pay any price to make our story the true one. The Eldar aren't. They'll sacrifice anything except themselves. The Tau aren't. They'll retreat from conflicts they can't win. The Necrons aren't. They'll wait millennia between engagements. But humanity will burn our own worlds, sacrifice our own people, and endure suffering that would break any other species. Not because we're brave, because we're too stubborn to quit. Over the following months, I watched my neophytes transform from aspirants into battle brothers. They learned to fire bolters with transhuman precision. They mastered close-quarters combat against every XENOS threat profile. They absorbed the Codex Astartes' tactical doctrines and the chapter's strategic philosophies. But more importantly, they learned to see the galaxy as it truly was. A nightmare of competing species, each convinced of their own righteousness, locked in wars that had no end and no victor. They learned that Space Marines weren't heroes in any traditional sense. We were just the warriors stubborn enough to keep fighting when every logical analysis said we should surrender. On the day of their final trials, I stood with them in the embarkation bay as they prepared for their first true combat deployment. They looked at me with the same mixture of determination and fear I had felt 20 years earlier, standing in this exact spot before deployment to Armageddon. Brothers, I addressed them formally, you are about to face the galaxy as it truly is. You will kill XENOS who believe they're fighting for righteous causes. You will watch humans die because saving them would compromise strategic objectives. You will make choices that haunt you for the rest of your unnaturally long lives. This is what it means to be a Space Marine. I paused, making sure each of them met my gaze. The galaxy is full of XENOS who think they understand what humanity is. Your job is to prove them wrong. When the Orks think we'll break under their assault, stand firmer. When the Eldar think we're too primitive to threaten them, outthink them. When the Tau think we'll accept their greater good, show them our faith burns brighter than their philosophy. When the Tyranids think we're just more biomass to consume, teach them that humanity is poison they'll choke on. When the Necrons think we're temporary insects, outlive their expectations. I raised my fist in salute. You are Ultramarines. You are the Emperor's chosen. You are the thin blue line between humanity and extinction. Make every XENOS in this galaxy regret that they didn't exterminate us when they had the chance. They returned the salute with voices that shook the embarkation bay. For the Emperor. For Ultramar! For humanity. Watching them board the Thunderhawks, I felt the same pride Marius must have felt watching me deploy for the first time. The cycle continued, each generation of Space Marines teaching the next, passing down not just tactics but wisdom, not just hatred but understanding, because in the end, that was what separated us from the XENOS. We learned, we adapted, we taught our children to be better than we were, and somehow, against all probability, we survived. Chapter 8, The Eternal Warrior, and Brother-Captain Castor now, promoted to command after Captain Ardias fell to a Necron overlord's war scythe on the tomb world of Mortis. I have served the Ultramarines for 73 years. I have fought across 147 worlds. I have killed thousands of XENOS representing every major species and dozens of minor variations. The honor markings on my armor tell a story of wars without end, victories without peace, and survival without certainty. Today, I stand in the strategium of the strike cruiser Sword of Macragga, studying tactical displays that show our current operational theater, the Octarius sector, where the Imperium made a decision that perfectly encapsulates our species' approach to XENOS threats. The Inquisition deliberately seeded Tyranid organisms into an Ork-held sector. The resulting war has raged for decades. Billions of greenskins fighting trillions of Tyranids in an eternal meat grinder that consumes both species while humanity watches from the sidelines. It's brilliant. It's ruthless. It's exactly the kind of calculated cruelty that keeps humanity alive in a galaxy designed to kill us. What do you see, Brother Sergeant Marius? I ask my old mentor, who stands beside me studying the same displays. He's even older now, over 3 centuries of service, his face more scar tissue than flesh, his augmetic eye glowing red in the strategium's dim lighting. I see the galaxy's future, Marius replies. Every species fighting every other species in wars that never end because ending would mean admitting weakness. The Orks fight the Tyranids. The Tyranids consume everything in their path. The Eldar raid both for resources and sport. The Tau try to expand into the chaos. The Necrons wake slowly and eliminate all organic life they encounter. And humanity, we're in the middle of it all, fighting everyone simultaneously while trying to keep our own Imperium from collapsing. Sustainable? I ask, though I already know the answer. No, Marius says bluntly. We're losing ground every decade. Another hive world falls to Tyranid invasion. Another sector succeeds to the Tau Empire. Another tomb world awakens and reclaims its ancient territory. The Imperium of Man is dying exactly as slowly as it's lived for 10,000 years. One crisis at a time, one sacrifice at a time, one desperate victory at a time. He turns to face me fully, but here's what I've learned in 3 centuries of war. The Imperium doesn't need to win forever. We just need to survive longer than every other species' plan requires. The Orks are eternal, but their Wa-s eventually exhaust themselves. The Tyranids are infinite, but they need biomass, and we can deny them enough to starve fleets. The Eldar are dying, losing population every generation. The Tau are expanding, but their empire is still tiny compared to the Imperium's million worlds. The Necrons are waking, but they're also fighting each other in dynastic civil wars. Every XENOS threat is either finite or divided. We're the only species that's both infinite in our stubborn refusal to die and unified under the Emperor's vision. Unified? I challenge. The Imperium is fractured by bureaucracy, riven by heresy, corrupted by chaos. Planetary governors wage war against each other. The Administratum can't account for half its own worlds. The Ecclesiarchy burns more humans for religious deviation than XENOS kill in some sectors. True, Marius acknowledges. And yet when XENOS threaten an Imperial world, Space Marines deploy to defend it. When Tyranids invade a sector, the Imperial Guard mobilizes millions. When rebellion threatens to spread, the Inquisition responds with absolute force. Our unity is ugly, inefficient, and often counterproductive, but it exists. The Necrons have been fighting their own civil wars for 60 million years. We've managed 10,000 without complete fragmentation. That's either divine intervention or pure stubborn luck. I think about all the Xenos I've fought, all the perspectives I've absorbed, all the questions that have accumulated over 7 decades of warfare. Do you ever wonder if we're the villains, Marius? From the Xenos perspective, humanity is the invasive species. We colonized a million worlds that belong to others. We wage xenocide as policy. We refuse all diplomatic contact. We are, by most definitions, genocidal conquerors. Marius is silent for a long moment. When he speaks, his voice carries the weight of 3 centuries hard-won wisdom. Yes, I wonder that constantly, and here's what I've concluded. Villainy requires intentional malice. We're not malicious, we're desperate. Every species in this galaxy is fighting for survival. The Orks are hardwired for war. The Tyranids are driven by hunger. The Eldar are trying to avoid extinction. The Tau are expanding or dying. The Necrons want to reclaim what they built. Everyone has legitimate grievances and legitimate needs. The galaxy just isn't big enough for all of us to satisfy those needs simultaneously. He gestures to the tactical display showing the Octarius War. This is the galaxy's truth, not cooperation, not unity, not the Tau's greater good. Just endless conflict between species that all deserve to exist but can't coexist. So we fight, not because we're evil, but because the alternative is extinction. And if that makes us villains from the XENOS perspective, he shrugs. I can live with being the villain in their story, as long as humanity survives to tell ours. The Strategium's Vox system crackles to life. Brother-Captain Castor, we're receiving distress calls from Imperial World Redemption Prime. Eldar Corsairs raiding civilian targets. They're requesting immediate Space Marine intervention. I look at Marius, and we share a moment of understanding that transcends words. Another world under attack. Another XENOS threat to eliminate. Another deployment where we'll kill beings who think they're fighting for righteous causes. Another day in the eternal war. Plot course for Redemption Prime, I command. Maximum warp speed. Third company deploys in 4 hours. Standard XENOS elimination protocols. As the crew scrambles to execute my orders, I turn back to the tactical displays and think about the neophytes I'm training now. The next generation who will carry humanity's burden when Marius and I finally fall. What wisdom can I pass to them that wasn't taught to me? The truth, I realize. The complicated, uncomfortable truth. Later, I gather my neophytes in the same gallery of abominations where my own education began so many decades ago. They look at me with the same mixture of awe and determination I once felt, their young faces unmarked by the scars that will come. Brothers, I begin, I'm going to tell you something that contradicts your indoctrination. The XENOS species we fight are not mindless monsters. They are not pure evil. They are beings with cultures, histories, philosophies, and perspectives that, from their point of view, completely justify their actions. I activate the hololith, cycling through images of every major XENOS species. The Orks are born to fight and die happy in combat. From their perspective, they're living the best possible existence. The Eldar are survivors of an apocalypse trying to prevent humanity from repeating their mistakes. From their perspective, they're trying to save us from ourselves. The Tau genuinely believe the greater good will bring peace to a violent galaxy. From their perspective, they're the heroes trying to unite warring species. The Tyranids are following biological programming to consume and survive. From their perspective, they're no different from any other predator. The Necrons built this galaxy's first civilization and believe they have rightful claim to it. From their perspective, organic life is the infestation. I pause, making sure each neophyte absorbs this. Every species has a story that makes them the protagonists. Every species has legitimate grievances and legitimate needs. Every species deserves to exist according to some philosophical framework. Then why do we fight them? One neophyte asks. The same question generations of Space Marines have asked their mentors. Because the galaxy is not a philosophy debate, I reply. It's a zero-sum war for survival. Resources are finite. Habitable worlds are limited. Every XENOS expansion is a human contraction. Every Tyranid hive fleet that feeds is billions of human souls consumed.
Every Orkwa
that conquers is Imperial worlds lost. Every Tau conversion is human culture erased. Every Necron awakening is organic life threatened. We fight not because we're morally superior, but because we choose humanity over everything else. That choice is not virtuous. It's just ours. I deactivate the hololith and face them directly. Here's what I need you to understand. Being a Space Marine means making terrible choices and living with the consequences. You will kill Eldar who are trying to save their dying species. You will execute humans who genuinely believe the Tau offered a better future. You will burn worlds to deny them to Tyranids. You will destroy Necron tomb complexes that are architectural wonders predating human civilization. You will do all of this, knowing that from another perspective, you are the monster, the fanatic, the genocidal zealot who refuses reason. I let the silence hang heavy in the gallery, the stasis-preserved XENOS specimens standing as silent witnesses to my words. And here is the burden that comes with that understanding. You cannot claim ignorance. You cannot say you didn't know better. You will kill with full knowledge of what you're destroying. The Eldar you execute has a name, a history, loved ones who will mourn. The Tau you incinerate believed he was building a better galaxy. The Ork you butcher was experiencing genuine joy in his final moments. You will know all of this, and you will kill them anyway. Young Constantine, now a full battle brother who survived his trials, speaks up. Brother Captain, how do we carry that burden? How do we live with being the villains in every other species' story? You carry it the same way I do, I reply. The same way Marius does. The same way every Space Marine before us has. You remember that humanity is worth it. Every human child born, every human dream dreamed, every human life lived in relative peace. That is what we purchase with XENOS blood and our own souls. We are not heroes. We are not saviors. We are the willing monsters who do monstrous things so that humanity doesn't have to. I gesture to the specimens around us. The Orks' permanent grin, the Eldar's elegant form, the Tau's advanced armor, the Tyranids' perfect biological efficiency, the Necrons' immortal metal. Every one of these species would destroy humanity if given the chance. Not from malice, but from necessity. The Orks would fight us eternally because that's their purpose. The Eldar would manipulate us into serving their survival. The Tau would subsume us into their empire. The Tyranids would consume us utterly. The Necrons would exterminate us as vermin in their ancient halls. They wouldn't do these things because they're evil. They do them because they're following their nature, their needs, their right to exist. I draw my bolt pistol, the same weapon that has served me for 73 years. Its ceramite housing marked with kill tallies I stopped counting decades ago. This is our answer to the galaxy's complexity. Not philosophy, not negotiation, not compromise, just absolute, unwavering commitment to humanity's survival at any cost. The Emperor gave us the strength to enforce that commitment. The Codex Astartes gave us the wisdom to apply it effectively. And faith. Faith is what lets us sleep at night, knowing what we've done. Brother Chaplain Ortan, even older now than when he first taught me, steps forward from where he'd been observing. Brother-Captain Castor speaks truth that few outside the Adeptus Astartes understand. We do not fight because we are righteous. We fight because we are committed. That commitment requires us to see the galaxy clearly. Not through the comforting lens of propaganda that paints XENOS as mindless monsters, but through the harsh light of reality that shows them as thinking beings with their own justifications. He looks at each neophyte in turn. This clarity is dangerous. It is why Space Marines are both humanity's greatest defenders and its most carefully watched warriors. We know too much. We see too clearly. We understand that the Imperium's survival is not cosmically ordained. It is purchased daily through sacrifice, cruelty, and choices that would break normal humans. If we falter, if we question, if we choose XENOS cooperation over human dominance, the entire structure collapses. Then we are slaves, Constantine says quietly. Slaves to a doctrine that allows no alternatives. Yes, I agree, surprising him. We are slaves to humanity's survival. We are bound by chains we cannot break. Not because they're physically restraining us, but because we chose these chains when we accepted our gene seed. Every Space Marine makes a choice. Freedom to question everything, or commitment to defend one thing absolutely. We chose commitment. That choice echoes across our unnaturally long lives. Every day, every battle, every XENOS we kill, who might have been an ally in another galaxy, another time, another universe. I holster my bolt pistol. But here is the secret that makes this bearable. Every species made the same choice. The Orks chose eternal war. The Eldar chose survival at any cost. The Tau chose expansion of their philosophy. The Tyranids chose infinite consumption. The Necrons chose immortality over mortality. We all chose, and now we live with those choices in a galaxy too small for all our dreams. Is there no hope? A young neophyte asks, his voice barely above a whisper. No chance for peace? No, Marius answers before I can, his ancient voice rough as grinding stone. There is no peace. There will never be peace. The galaxy is fundamentally a place of conflict because sentient life requires resources, and those resources are limited. Even if humanity somehow defeated every XENOS threat, which we won't, we would just find new conflicts. We always do. The Imperium has been fighting itself almost as long as it's been fighting XENOS. He approaches the young neophyte, placing a gauntleted hand on his shoulder. But hope. Yes, there is hope. Not for peace, but for survival. Not for victory, but for persistence. Not for a better galaxy, but for another generation of human lives. That is what we fight for. Not some grand destiny, just the simple continuation of our species. And if that seems like too small a thing to kill for, remember that from a cosmic perspective, humanity's entire existence is infinitesimally small. We're just one species on one tiny planet that got lucky and spread to the stars. Our very existence is improbable. Our survival is miraculous. Our refusal to quit is either divine intervention or the most beautiful stubbornness in the galaxy. The Strategium's Vox crackles again. Brother Captain, we're approaching Redemption Prime. Eldar Corsair fleet detected in orbit. They're withdrawing. Looks like they got what they came for and don't want to engage Space Marines. I nod to my neophytes. You see? They're not mindless. They're not suicidal. They're pragmatic raiders who know that fighting Ultramarines over one raid isn't worth the casualties. This is the Eldar psychology I've taught you. Survival above all else. They'll be back when they think we're not watching, and we'll kill them then. Just as we would have killed them now. I lead my neophytes to the embarkation bay, where our Thunderhawks await. Through the massive blast doors, I can see Redemption Prime growing larger in the viewport. Another Imperial world. Another collection of human lives that depend on Space Marines they'll never meet, serving an emperor they worship without understanding. Final lesson before deployment, I tell my neophytes as we approach our transports. In a few hours, we'll be hunting Eldar Corsairs. You'll see beings of impossible grace and ancient wisdom. They'll speak in our language, possibly try to negotiate, definitely try to manipulate. They'll make arguments about why humanity should work with them against greater threats like the Tyranids or chaos. They'll be logical, compelling, and partially correct. I meet each of their gazes. And you will kill them anyway, not because they're wrong. They might be right about many things. You'll kill them because they are not human, and humanity's survival is not negotiable. This is what it means to be a Space Marine. This is what the Emperor created us to do. This is why we exist. We board the Thunderhawks, these flying fortresses that will carry us to another battle in an eternal war. As the engines roar to life and we lift from the hangar bay, I look at my neophytes, these young warriors who will carry humanity's burden forward when my generation finally falls. They're scared. Good. Fear means they understand. The weight of what they're becoming, they're determined. Better. Determination is what keeps Space Marines fighting when every logical analysis says to quit. They're questioning. Best of all, questions mean they see the complexity, the moral ambiguity, the terrible choices, and they're choosing to fight anyway. The Thunderhawk breaks atmosphere, and Redemption Prime's surface spreads below us. Cities full of humans who will never know we came, never know we killed to protect them, never know the price paid in XENOS blood and Space Marine souls to purchase another day of their ordinary lives. This is what Space Marines think of XENOS. They are thinking beings with legitimate perspectives, fighting for causes they believe are just, using methods they consider necessary. They are not monsters. They are not evil. They are just not human. And in a galaxy where resources are finite and every species fights for survival, that distinction is the only one that matters. I am Brother-Captain Castor of the Ultramarine's 3rd Company. I have killed thousands. I will kill thousands more. I understand why my enemies fight. I respect their commitment to their own species. I acknowledge that from their perspective, I am the monster. None of that will stop me, because I am a Space Marine, and Space Marines exist to ensure that humanity survives another day, another year, another millennium, not through righteousness or superiority or cosmic destiny, just through absolute, unbreakable commitment to one simple truth. We are human. They are not. That is enough. The Thunderhawk's Vox crackles, approaching Eldar Corsair last known position, preparing for combat deployment. I check my bolt pistol one final time, its weight familiar as faith, its purpose clear as doctrine. Around me, my neophytes do the same. These young warriors learning what I learned, what Marius learned, what generations of Space Marines have learned. The galaxy is full of species that deserve to exist. The galaxy is also too small for all of them to survive. Someone has to lose. It will not be humanity. Not today. Not ever. Not while one Space Marine still draws breath and carries a weapon. The Thunderhawk's assault ramp lowers, revealing Redemption Prime's surface and whatever XENOS threats await. I rise from my restraint harness, my ceramite armor humming with power, my faith absolute as the Emperor's will. For the Emperor, I shout, and 40 voices echo back the cry. For Ultramar! For humanity! For survival! We deploy into another battle in an eternal war, knowing exactly what we're doing and doing it anyway, because that is what Space Marines do. We fight, we kill, we endure, and somehow, against all probability, humanity persists. That is what Space Marines think of XENOS, and that is why, in the end, we will outlast them all.